We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
We're back. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live Broadcast Network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. The subject of homeopathy as a healing tool has enjoyed broad acceptance recently, become very, very popular. And my guest is Guillaume Lois. And Guillaume has a new brand of homeopathic medicines. I say homeopathic medicines because they are regulated by the FDA in the United States as drugs, and so they can make specific claims. Guillaume, welcome to Here's to Your Health.
Thank you for having me.
Sure. And so your new homeopathic company, the name is what?
Olois.
Olois. And Olois is very fresh technology in the homeopathic way of thinking because the complete line is dairy-free. Is that correct?
That's correct. I mean, we are slowly but surely introducing all the different items as dairy-free, lactose-free, and on the shelf as of today, maybe half of them are already dairy-free, and hopefully in the next month or so, they will all be lactose-free. Yes.
And for my listeners, homeopathic medicine is not the same as herbs. It's not herbs. It is, again, as I mentioned, regulated by the FDA.
That's correct, Josh. Homeopathy has been regulated by the FDA since 1938, so it's not something that just came up like last month or so. It's a very old medicine. It's been discovered in the early 1900s by Dr. Hahnemann, and it's been around for more than 200 years. And at the beginning of the century, I mean in 1938, yes, the FDA regulated them as a drug. I mean, the medicines, homeopathic medicines, are regulated as OTC, over-the-counter medicines.
And so you have a full line of homeopathic medicines, and in your particular line, is Arnica montana still the number one selling item?
Oh yeah, Arnica montana. Arnica is the number one homeopathic medicine sold actually in the world. It's a natural pain relief medicine. It's actually. Here we have an example.
Yeah.
I don't know if you are familiar with the way of using pellets.
No, tell me.
Tell me.
So let's say, for example, I hurt my knees.
Correct.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, that's exactly. Every time there is a muscle soreness, stiffness, trauma, bruising, Arnica is the homeopathic medicine you want to use. It's been used, for example, I worked for 2 years in Mexico, and 90% of the Mexican population uses Arnica on a regular basis, whether it's in an ointment or a gel or a cream. The way we developed it is in a pellet format. So you have a tube of 80 pellets, and what you do, you tube the tube upside down, you twist the cap, you're going to break the seal, and every time a pellet is going to fall into the cap, and once you have 5 pellets, you put them under the tongue.
Yes.
You can even keep talking. And you let them dissolve under the tongue. It's very interesting to put them sublingually because it goes directly into the bloodstream.
Right.
So it's a very fast effect. It's actually the fastest absorption way after the intravenous one. And it's going to get a systemic action. You're going to, get into your blood right away and help the pain, the inflammation, the swelling right away. It's actually one of the number one plastic surgeon recommended for plastic surgery. Yes.
Yes, I know they are in the LA territory. They are recommending Arnica montana so the patients heal faster.
Correct.
And because the patients don't want to be walking around with the bruised eyes and nose and lips and they want to look good. And let's say I injure myself playing soccer, and I use the Arnica Montana. I notice you have 6C, etc., 30C. And could you tell me what's the difference?
That's a very good question. That's actually what everybody is asking us. If you go to Whole Foods or your health food stores and you see the entire display, you're going to see on Arnica, especially Arnica Montana, you're going to see a 6C, a 12C, a 30C, and a 200C. Those numbers are actually the level of dilution. Mm-hmm. The higher the number is, sorry, I still have some pellets in my mouth.
No problem.
The higher the number is, the higher the dilution is. So it's more diluted, okay? And what I try to explain, on a very easy way to understand, it's like if you picture a target in your mind and you have the bullseyes in the middle. That's going to be the first level of dilution, the 6C, for example, which is the most concentrated one, less diluted. And it's going to help very local and acute symptoms. Like if you have a local bruise, you play tennis and you get hit by the ball, you have a bruise, or you sprain your ankle when you were playing soccer yesterday. It's very acute, it's very localized, and it's going to be a 6C. I always say local symptom, low dilution.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Then if you picture the target, the next circle on the target is going to be the 12C. And the symptom is a bit broader. The bruise, for example, is maybe not just on the nose, but all over the face, which is why I recommend it for the majority of homeopathic doctors or plastic surgeons recommend 12C dilution because it's amazing for surgery. You don't have a bruise like a rhinoplasty, for example. You just are not bruised on the nose. You're like all over the face, right? On the nose would be probably a 6C. If it's all over the face, then it's a 12C. And I put it on the display. I thought it would be easy to understand, or not just taking the staff member words for it, but actually write it on the display. So 6C is going to say local and recent symptoms. 12C is going to be said recommended before and after surgery. Then you go to the next circle, which is going to be the 30C. 30C is going to be like all over the body. If you have a chronic back pain, or if you have like a workout for the first time in 6 months, your entire body is sore. The whole body. That's where I picture is the 30C dilution. And the last one, the 200CK, it's diluted 200 times. You're going to ask me what's next after the whole body? Well, the emotions, the mind. If you're traumatized, not only physically, but emotionally, by the accident, for example, a car accident, or I always use the example of, some elderly people walking in the street and maybe falling down and they hit their hip. They have a pain, they have a physical pain. And it happened to my grandmother, and she was saying, hey, she called me like, what arnica already should I take? Because she knows I'm working on this. And so I said, well, grandma, it's local, it's just recent, just happened yesterday, right? So go ahead, go to the pharmacy, and in France, it's sold in pharmacies. And go and grab an Arnica 60. And she's like, well, how do you want me to go to the pharmacy? I can't walk. I'm staying in my bed. I'm going to die here. I'm like, whoa, grandma, you're literally traumatized by the pain. So there is an emotional component associated with the pain, a trauma. That's when the 200C helps the most. And I put it like on the display.
Well, it's a very nice explanation. And one thing, when older people do fall, besides hurting themselves physically, it's very bad emotionally, because their thinking is, oh my goodness, I'm so old, I'm falling, I'm going to be passing away shortly. So really, there's a major emotional component.
Totally.
Your explanation was very good.
Thank you.
It was very good. Because it gives you, it's very clear, so people know exactly what it does and how I use it. Now, what about taking 5 pellets at a time? Let's say, again, I'm playing sports and I hurt my knees or back or something. How many times do I take?
Well, the standard use is 5 pellets 3 times a day. That's what's written on the tube, on the label. That's what, if you don't know what you should be doing. Now, you can take it a bit more often, maybe at the beginning. Again, homeopathy, it's a natural medicine that's going to help stimulate our own immune system, our own ability to heal. So instead of getting better in 7 days by with nothing, no help, maybe we get better in 2 days.
Right.
But you have to stimulate the body. I always use the analogy, for example, of a car that runs out of gas, and you're gonna have to push it to the next gas station. At the beginning, you may have to push harder to get the car in motion. You push harder at the beginning, meaning for example, if you just sprain your ankle, or if you have get hit by the ball, or kids, they fall, they have a bump, right? You want to maybe give them every 30 minutes right. the medication, so it helps, it puts the body in motion to how to heal. Once the car is moving, what you are pushing, you realize without even knowing it that you're pushing less and less because it's already in motion, yes. Right? And if by chance you get a downhill, meaning you already have a good system, you don't even have to push it anymore. Right. It's in motion by itself. So that's the analogy I use. Like maybe you want to take homeopathy a bit more often at the beginning, and then there is a rule or a principle that says you take it less frequently as you improve. And once you are fine, let's say you have difficulty falling asleep and you take a homeopathic dilution of coffee, which maybe we
coffee
get into
cruda.
Coffee cruda, exactly. And you take it maybe a little bit more often at the beginning. Once you are fine, when you sleep well, that means your body took over. It's not like a regular conventional medicine that's going to either mask the symptom or artificially induced the sleep. Once you sleep well with homeopathy, that means your body took over, you're fine. And if you stop taking it, you're still going to sleep well. So stop taking it when you're fine. Take it more often at the beginning, then you separate the dose as you improve, and once you're fine, you can stop taking it.
Let's go back to your grandma falling and hurting herself. She was using the Arnica Montana, and she had trauma, so you gave her the 200C. Was there anything else you could recommend? For example, is coffee cruda good if your grandma wasn't sleeping well or she was upset? What else could you potentially recommend?
Well, there are a lot of different medicines that I can think of. For example, if you have a lot of apprehension, if you, she's afraid to go out again and she has apprehension going out, or this feeling of being overwhelmed by what's going on around you. That could be Gelsemium, for example. Gelsemium, yes. But if she had nerve damage from the fall, there is a great medicine called Hypericum for nerve pain. But I guess it depends on everybody. Everyone is unique, right? So you have different ways of reacting to the pain. With homeopathy, you can actually go in depth, and I always use the example of arthritic pain. You can use in the conventional medicine, conventional world, you have a medicine for arthritic pain.
Yeah.
With homeopathy, whether you improve or you get worse, how the pain improves or how the symptom gets worse, you're going to give it different medicines, so it's going to be either Bryonia or Rhus tox. But that's how
Bryonia
or
Rhus
tox, yes. For arthritic pain. If you lay down and feel better, or if you start moving around and feel better, it's going to be different. So it's what we call the modalities, how people react to the pain or to the symptom. And with homeopathy, we can go a bit deeper than maybe conventional medicines and address not only the symptom, but how do you react to it as a person.
And your O. Lewis new homeopathic line,
yes,
does not use dairy.
Well, that's what we try to do. Usually homeopathic pellets have been forever made of 85% of sucrose and 15% of lactose.
A little bit of milk sugar.
Yeah, a bit of milk in it. And all those years, for 20 years, are like, well, I'm lactose intolerant, so I can't take it. And you take that for granted. Like all the lactose intolerant, maybe they don't want to take it.
Yeah, they don't. I'm lactose intolerant. When I take homeopathic items, which I think help me, I notice, in my opinion, the ones with lactose make my skin break out. That's my take on it. And so I
Right.
think, oh God.
So
I
even
know
though
it's
there is a
worked.
very little bit of
Very
amount of
little bit.
lactose, some people are very sensitive
Right.
to it, and some people even they don't want to even take the chance,
Right.
right? So after getting all those complaint or this feedback from
Feedback,
all those
yeah, for sure.
customers, I try to what we try to do with our team and my business partner is to listen to the people
Mm-hmm.
and to make homeopathy a people's medicine. And it doesn't necessarily come from doctors, doesn't come from pharmacists. It's
Right, good
people's,
perspective, by the way.
people's
Yes.
people's
Right,
people. So we listened to people. We listened, when they were telling me, I don't know which, my doctor recommended Arnica montana. I went to the stores. They asked me, what dilution do you need? And they're like, I don't know. What do you recommend? Well, I don't know. So we listened to that and we explained that differentiation that we talked about before on the caddy. They said, okay, well, I'm looking at the full display here, and let's say I have it's a woman suffering from hot flashes, and they're like, well, I have to go through each one of the different items to know which one was going to help me for hot flashes. So we said, okay, well, let's make it easy for them. Let's create a wheel. Like we created this very simple wheel,
okay.
and it
Wheels are
goes-
fun.
Yeah. So it says like hot flashes. So you would go to a woman and you would turn the wheel, and it's going to be like, okay, women, hot flashes. Oh, that's Lachesis mutus, and you go to the
what is that again?
Lachesis mutus.
And what flower is that derived from?
That's actually not a flower. It's a animal-based remedies. Homeopathy is like 80% or 70% from botanical, but also 20% from animals,
Okay.
and also some minerals. Okay, so the
And when we're talking about menopausal symptoms now, or
hot flashes, menopause, etc.
now that of course is very upsetting to women and catches women completely by surprise, and the women find it very demoralizing. You put a beautiful outfit on, you're ready to go out the door to go to work, and suddenly you're drenched in sweat, and it's very upsetting. So what are some of the homeopathic suggestions that you have found work?
Well, you have another one, and again, the beauty of what we try to do is make it like everybody, like me, I'm a layperson, I'm not a doctor. Again, the people's medicine, anybody could access. Very simple. I mean, there are more than 1,500 homeopathic medicine registered by regulated by the Pharmacopoeia of the United States. But we selected like 45 because they are the easiest one to use, the one that we know work all the time. For example, you go to a woman and you say like, okay, menstrual symptoms, moodiness, during the menstrual symptoms, that would be sepia officinalis. That's another one that I can think of, for this type of.
And is sepia a flower?
No, sepia is actually the the ink from the sepia, the
squid.
The squid. Here you go.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So so that's what we try to do, and to go back to your question about the milk. So okay, well, how can we make homeopathy a people's person that everybody could take it?
Right.
Not just have an easy access to the medicine they could need, but if you have people, especially now, more and more people, unfortunately, are lactose intolerant. Or,
Yes. Yeah. People recognize
there is a trend for dairy-free medicines. So we worked with a lab in Europe for 2 years, and we were able to actually develop the same type of structure for the pellets without the milk.
And what are you using as your substance?
So it's just sucrose. Instead of sucrose and lactose, it's just sucrose.
So really, there was no reason to use lactose. They just kind of been
it's
using it for a couple hundred years.
Yeah, it's supposed like, okay, well, that's what it is, and so that's what it is, period. And until someone said, hey, what if we can do something about it?
Well, we were chatting before we went on the air today, and I did mention to you that after I spoke to you and you mentioned your homeopathic supplements were milk-free, I thought, what a great idea. I didn't think of it until you told me the idea, and as soon as you said it, I thought, my God, that's a great and important idea, and that'll push things forward. That'll change the game. And I thought, isn't that lovely? Isn't that lovely?
Yeah,
really?
that's what we try to do, make a difference, and again, all comes from listening to people, and try to help everybody and not just some few.
Have some of your colleagues also smiled at you when you told them this idea? They thought, "Gee, we sorry, didn't we think of that? We didn't think of that first."
Well, a lot of people actually thought of it, but
really?
just thought it wouldn't be possible, so didn't even try. One thing is to think about it, another thing is to do something about it.
Right.
And so, yes, we did it.
And these products pronounced Olois?
Olois.
Olois. Where can I buy them?
Well, we are fortunate enough to have a great distribution on the West Coast. You could go at any health food stores. I mean, any Whole Foods.
Oh, Whole Foods has
Whole
it. Okay.
Foods,
So after
all
Whole
the
Foods
stores,
has it,
yes,
everyone else falls in line because they're very hard to get into Whole
Well,
Foods.
and they
They're
were
very
the
careful.
first. They were the first one to actually trust us and say, you know what, I think you got something here. We're gonna help you. So we started with 20 stores, and now we have more than 200 stores across the
wow.
country.
Wow.
The entire West Coast of the United States. Southern Pacific, Arizona, Nevada, Hawaii, then Northern California, then Washington and Oregon. All the stores carry our lines. We just started now expanding also on the East Coast, like the North Atlantic area, the Boston area, Connecticut, Rhode Island. They carry ours too. We have a nice chain in Florida called Vitamin Discount Center that decided to bring the product in, and slowly but surely we expanding the distribution. Yes.
And these little tube of 80 tablets,
Pellets
is the correct term. What is the retail on those?
Well, it depends on the store. The suggested retail price is $6.99.
Oh, that's very reasonable.
So it's very reasonable.
Oh my goodness.
We tried to incorporate the innovation of the lactose-free without increasing the price. That's another thing that we, care for people, and we want to make it affordable and accessible to everybody. So the only one that is a little bit different is the 200 CK, because we have, to dilute it so much that it's a bit more expensive. But other than that, yeah, it's $6.99.
And again, the 200 CK is for emotional component in the illness.
Yeah, when there is a physical pain associated with emotional trauma, so it's not just a, muscle ache, it's also emotional trauma.
And let me just mention this once again for my listeners. The claims that you make for these homeopathic medicines are very specific, and you're allowed to make these claims because your products are regulated by the FDA as drugs.
That's correct. That's correct. And unlike dietary supplements where you cannot make an OTC over-the-counter drug claim, homeopathic medicines, not just mine, by the way, but all of them being regulated as OTC medicines or drugs by the FDA, allow us to use OTC claims, not prescription drugs claims, obviously, but OTC claims like sneezing, runny nose, pain. Actually, what we did in the same idea of making those medicines accessible to the people, to everybody, we came up with this free pamphlet that you can find in store, where you have all the different symptoms that we help people with by alphabetical order. So again, I'm talking about.
Now we're in LA. We have a lot of actors here. Is indeed there not a homeopathic remedy for stage fright? There is there not?
There is one, yes. And actually, I'm going to do I want people to understand how to use it. So you would go to stage fright, and it would be Argentum nitricum.
Which one again?
Argentum nitricum.
Argentum nitricum. And what's that derived from?
Well, this is it's a mineral. It's the how do you call the silver? Argentum nitricum.
Okay, silver. Now, for those of you, my audience who are smiling at this, who are actors, and stage fright. So let's say I'm a young actor and I have stage fright. Do I take a different potency than if I'm a 65-year-old actor with stage fright? So you tell me how I would take this for stage fright.
Well, the stage fright,
And let me have it once again for stage fright. What's the name?
Argentum nitricum.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
With homeopathy, it's not body weight related, or it's not male and female gender related, etc. So it's really more like you stimulate your own body. So it's not like if you're young or older, you don't need to take a different dose, right? It's going to be the same dose, 5 pellets 3 times a day. We always recommend it maybe 2 days prior to the event, like if
2 days prior.
But it's the same if you have a driving test or something like that, or kids, with an exam at school, take 2 days before, or if you're scared to fly, all those events that are going to overwhelm you and stage fright, so 2 days before, 5 pellets 3 times a day, and then you take it, during the same day, and usually it's not the typical medicine you take after, obviously, because there's no point.
Right.
but yeah, it helps. I mean, I've seen so many people telling me, "Wow, I was so scared. I usually, like, when I'm on stage, I lose my control and everything, and I felt fine this time. So I guess it can help. Yes."
And again, for people who are just tuning in, the homeopathic medicines are regulated as medicines, and so they make specific claims. And sometimes when you read the packages, the claims are so specific that people smile. I've seen people say, "Oh, what do you mean?" Because they're thinking vitamin C, which is great for a cold, but you're not allowed to say that legally on the label. You can't say vitamin C is good for a cold, or zinc lozenges are good for a cold, or echinacea, golden seal are good for a cold, herbs. You can't say that, or garlic. But the homeopathic items are, and that actually has been very helpful for them because it's very clear what they do, and they are regulated by the FDA, which is terribly important. And they're inexpensive, and they seem to be used in most of the world. I mean, almost most of the countries in the world use homeopathic medicines. It's just like, it's not even a big deal. It's like, it's not very avant-garde. It's just like, that's what we do.
I'm from France. From my accent, you can tell, right? And in France, 60% of the French population uses homeopathy on a regular basis. I mean, I was raised with homeopathy, and I thought that everybody in the world would do the same. Then I went to different countries, and I'm like, whoa, why don't you use homeopathic medicine like I use, and like all my family, all my friends use? 46% of the French doctors, MDs, use recommend homeopathy. Maybe they are not homeopaths, but they know how to use 5-10 different medicines, and they recommend to their patients. So I thought that was what it was all over the world. And then I came to the US. I mean, and fortunately enough, I actually worked 2 years in Mexico, which same thing. Everybody there uses homeopathy. When you say, like, I was telling about the Arnica montana example. You go to India, it's 90%. Everywhere. And I come here in the US and it's only 3%. So
is that the number?
I believe so. Roughly. But the good news is nowadays with communication, we are all connected with globalization. You can tell, you know what's going on around the world. I don't know if it's that, or if it's all the new trend, especially for mothers with young kids, seeking for more like a natural alternative. Maybe they got a bit scared by all the recalls, for the regular cough syrups, etc.
Yeah, people have more exposure to information, and they're concerned. Yeah,
and so they go to the store and they find these medicines that work and are easy to use, and they buy it more and more.
Well, Guillaume, this has been fantastic. Once again, tell me the name of your company and where I can buy it.
So it's Oloes. These are single homeopathic medicines, single ingredients, and you can buy them at Whole Foods, but also at Lassen's, at Vitamin Discount Center, at Bristol Farms, at Lazy Acres, metropolitan market in the Seattle area. More and more chains right now are embracing them.
Well, Guillaume, it's been very interesting and it's been fun. I appreciate you being a guest today on my show.
Thank you so much, Josh, for having me. Bye-bye.
You're listening to this edition of Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live broadcast network. I'm your host, Josh Lane. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back after these important messages.
We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Hello world, I love you and I love me. Real talk straight from the heart brain. It's Madam Mibrations here, founder of Mibrations, sharing the Love Your Skin body butter. Mibrations creates with the highest vibrational energy on this planet Earth, which is love. So please support yourself, the world, and lupus community by purchasing any Mibrations healthy and living products. I also make vegan therapeutic living candles. You can find my products in the Bee Lounge located at 4873 Topanga Canyon Boulevard, Woodland Hills, California 91364, and at the Ink Rich Tattoo and Piercing located at 7211 Van Nuys Boulevard, Van Nuys, California 91405. Thank you for the highest good of all. I love you and I love me.
Young Connection, your one-stop connection for all your graphic design and commercial printing needs. Young Connection is a full-service printing and media design company dedicated to providing the highest level of customer service and satisfaction. Young Connection provides swift response and rapid turnaround services for banners, brochures, business cards, letterheads, church bulletins, funeral programs, flyers, logo design, posters, and much, much more, all at an affordable price. Young Connection, the official printing company of LA Talk Live. Give them a call at 310-491-3336. That's 310-491-3336, or visit their website at www.youngconnection.com. That's www.youngconnection.com. Young Connection Printing and Media Services, proud sponsors of LA Talk Live, where it's more than just talk.
Hey everybody, it's your man Sabir Bey, back on your airwaves, inviting you to join us every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on the Sabir Bey Show, discussing history, law, and hip-hop. Every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, the Sabir Bey Show, exclusively on LATalkLive.com. You also can catch us on iTunes Radio and R&B, Live 365, Radio Flag, and now Stitcher Radio. Or watch us and listen directly at LATalkLive.com. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Dr. Levi, your fitness doctor, making a personal house call, inviting you to join me Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific for my all-new show, The Dr. Levi Show. Join us as we discuss fitness, health, and well-being, including emotional and spiritual health. So don't forget to tune in to The Dr. Levi Show every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific, exclusively on LATalkLive.com and the Talk Live Broadcast Network. You can also catch us on iTunes, Radio R&B, or watch us on Ustream.tv, or catch us on the Live 365 network, and now on Radio Flag and Stitcher Radio. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Elena, inviting you to join me every Wednesday at noon for Elena's Beauty Talk and more, exclusively on LA Talk Live. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio, R&B, or watch us on Ustream.tv. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Indian Tyler, inviting you to join me beginning April 9th every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for Indian Tyler's Beyond the Vanity. Join me as we go beyond the vanity and discuss the real-life issues of beauty. And it gets really real. So on April 9th, don't forget to tune in to Indian Tyler's Beyond the Vanity, Wednesdays at 2 p.m., exclusively on LATalkLive.com and the Talk Live Broadcast Network. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B, TuneIn Radio, Live 365, Radio Flag, and AHA Radio. Or watch and listen directly at latalklive.com. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening and viewing pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
We're back. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live broadcast network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. My guest is the physician, Dr. Hyla Cass, who has been a guest on my show and this station a number of times, is well known in the wellness community for a progressive stand on wellness. Dr. Cass, welcome to Here's to Your Health.
Great to be here.
It's fun to have you here again. You've been a guest here before. You have a new book, 8 Weeks to Vibrant Health, which is a very nice book, nicely written. You've been interviewed on this show by Dr. Hans Kugler. And for the listening audience, where did you receive your training as a physician?
University of Toronto School of Medicine in Toronto, Canada.
And you've been practicing now for how long?
25 years.
Okay, 25 years is a very long time.
It's respectable.
It's very respectable. And you have a perspective that's really based on prevention and wellness. So, not to put you on the spot, so you're different from many physicians in that, when people get, break an arm, they need to go to a physician. But you like to work with people for systems, right? Like, for example, heart disease or diabetes. You help people there with their lifestyle. Is that correct?
That is correct. And part of this is I'm a psychiatrist. And at the same time, I'm also helping people with heart issues, digestive issues, muscle cramps, whatever it is, because the whole body's connected. What a surprise. It's obvious to those of us who really do know our physiology and our biochemistry, and it really is just simply good medicine.
The fact that the body's connected is a statement now that I think a large number of people would actually agree with. But if you had said that 30 or 40 years ago, people might have branded you as a little bit of a foolish person.
I've been, I guess, under the radar for a long time, and finally what I'm doing has become popular. So I'm very happy. I now have friends and followers, and I don't have to be as much under the radar.
I have had someone tell me, by way of criticizing the average psychiatrist, this was a physician, and the physician said to me in one sentence, they said, the psychiatrist does not test the organ. And I thought, oh my God, that's a great criticism. In other words, someone comes in, but they're very depressed, they have X wrong, and they might give you a med or something and do talk therapy, which is valuable, but they don't test the organ. You might be high in lead, you might be high in aluminum, you might be diabetic. And I thought, what a fair criticism, stated very succinctly.
Yes, and that's been the issue with psychiatry. So what I'm doing is like such good medicine. I do lab testing. I test for thyroid. I test the adrenal glands. I test neurotransmitter levels, blood sugar levels, and help get to the root cause of an issue rather than just treating the symptom with a drug.
So when patients come to you who are anxious or depressed, whatever the correct term is, do you find that sometimes they're hypoglycemic or diabetic? And are they shocked to realize that some of the problems of their mood is not all human beings are complicated, but some of it is, well, listen, for breakfast you had a donut and a cup of coffee rather than something with protein. And do they smile at you when you talk to them about that way? What do they say to you?
Depends on the individual. Years ago, people would come to me, and when I'd say what you're feeling may have something to do with what you're eating, they would look at me like, yeah, sure, give me a pill. But then I'd say, just humor me, have breakfast. And here's what to have for breakfast. And you're right, have some protein, have some fat. Fat? Oh no, fat's bad. No, fat's great. We need fat. We're fatheads. Our brains are 60 to 70% fat. We need it. Right. So have some fat, have some protein, have a little bit of not refined carb, complex carb.
Right.
And the
Dr.
result
Cass,
will be...
What's a complex carb?
Whole grains.
Whole grain.
or legumes. They're also a complex carb. You don't want to have sugar, white flour, the things that give you a quick high and just as quick low. Doesn't work. So I'd have people just change their diet, and they'd be shocked. Like, oh, I feel better. I don't need to take that Valium anymore that I came in taking. I don't need the Xanax. I don't need the Zoloft. And it's kind of, it could be amusing, but it's really sad and kind of scary. The number of people that are on medication when what they really need is simply a dietary change and then maybe some extra amino acid, herbs, vitamins to augment that. And they're fine. They don't need a medication. These meds are very powerful and toxic. They are potentially quite toxic.
Now, everything you just said, I think many of the listeners to my show on LA Talk Live would maybe agree with you and think, oh, yes, of course. But the position you take is still a very progressive position, is it not? I mean, many people in your profession would say, well, that Hyla Cass, we don't know what she's thinking. Am I wrong in saying that? I mean, is there a lot of criticism around who say, how dare she take people off Zoloft? How dare she recommend fish oil or something,
I'm pretty conservative on how I take people off of medication, because never go off cold turkey. You go off gradually. And what I'm doing, for example, if someone's on Zoloft, and this happened, it's interesting, this woman got up at a networking group that I was in, because she'd read my material, and she said, I have to say what happened to me. And she's a professional. She said, I have been on Zoloft since I was 16. She was in her 50s. I've been taking it every day since I was 16. And I was just sick and tired of it. Read Hyla's book, heard her speak, and decided, she didn't consult with me actually. She was a colleague, and I don't know why she didn't, but she went ahead and started to take 5-HTP, 5-hydroxytryptophan, and a multivitamin. And she said within a couple of months, she said, I was off the Zoloft, and I felt better than I ever have. I didn't have a minute of withdrawal. She said, I had tried to get off Zoloft a few times in the past, but it was always terrible. I'd go into these awful withdrawals with anxiety and insomnia. I couldn't do it. Mm-hmm. Doing it with the 5-HTP and the vitamins, piece of cake. And I feel so much better than I ever did. Because people don't realize it, but these antidepressant drugs numb you out. You get kind of what people call chemical brain. And they just don't have their emotions. They don't have their brain power.
Well, that's a great story. And so at this particular group that you belong to, was the audience response like, were they shocked to hear this? Were they? Because
they were my people.
Everything is simple after
you
know
it. This was my networking group. It was so they knew the idea.
Health practitioners. Yeah. But it's interesting. Everything is simple again after you know it. Yeah. So how many of your clients do you run into who again have been taking medication properly prescribed for a decade or more, and you decide, well, let's test your blood sugar, and let's make some dietary changes, and over a period of weeks or months, they say, Dr. Cass, we feel very good.
All the time. That is what happens, and it's not mysterious, it's not magic. And what I really like about what I do is that it translates down to everyday people. So even though I see patients and I make a difference in their lives, and I'm really happy that I do, I also can help make a difference in the lives of people I've never even met through my writing, speaking, shows like this.
Right.
And it makes me really happy. I get lots of emails of people who have succeeded just by reading. For example, in 8 Weeks to Vibrant Health, I have a questionnaire. So if people take the questionnaire, they can actually figure out what area needs attention and then go to the part of the book that actually covers that. So there's this really easy questionnaire. It's the same one that I give to patients. And can I show the camera?
I'm not sure the camera can actually pick up the.
Oh, too bad. But it'll look just sort of like that.
Yeah, it's in Dr. Cass's new book, 8 Weeks to Vibrant Health. Now let us go back once again to the whole idea of blood sugar and control of blood sugar. Please explain for the listening audience what that means and give me some real nice tips.
What we use blood sugar. It's glucose. Glucose is the fuel for the brain. It goes into the cell and it's turned into what's called ATP. ATP is energy. And there's a whole process that happens. But if you're not getting the right kind of sugar, if you're getting, for example, quick sugar, it's going to do a quick burn in and out, and then your your body's looking for more. Or you have a lack of, say, chromium, which is a mineral that's very important for the metabolism of sugar or glucose. So if you're low in chromium, you can have what looks like low blood sugar, and it isn't really. It's that you don't have the chromium that helps to metabolize that sugar, the glucose. So the bottom line here is that I have to do some testing. I have to ask a lot of questions. And then based on that, we'll prescribe certain vitamins, minerals, amino acids, lab testing, if I think that's in order.
What kind of lab testing?
Well, I'll base it on the questionnaire. For example, if somebody comes to me and they said they're tired all the time, they're cold. In fact, women who wear socks to bed are pretty common with this diagnosis. They have dry skin. They tire easily. These are people who are probably low thyroid. Mm-hmm. And usually they'll have read about it. They may go to their doctor and they'll say, hey, doc, I think I'm low thyroid. Their doctor's going to take a lab test and say, oh, I'm sorry. It's just borderline. Let's wait for it to get worse. I hate hearing that. Or it's within normal limits. What's normal limits? Normal limits is average. It's not what the ideal level ought to be. And in 8 Weeks to Vibrant Health, I tell you what is in the books, in the lab slip, on the report, but then what the range is of normal or average, and then what the recommended, what I think, and people like me think the range ought to be, and it's different. For example, a TSH, which is part of the thyroid score, I like to see it under 2. On some of the labs, they actually say that the range can go up to 5. You don't want it to be 5. And actually, the American College of Endocrinology even set it at only 3. And why, it's saying if you have a high TSH, you have a low thyroid. The TSH is the hormone that goes from your pituitary to your thyroid gland saying, come on, we need to make more hormone. We need more thyroid hormone. And when it's high, it means it's working really hard to get your thyroid gland to work, and it's not doing its job. So I look at the thyroid labs, I test the TSH, I test the free T3, free T4, reverse T3, and I also look for autoimmune thyroiditis. And this might sound complicated, but a lot of people may be not only low thyroid, but their low thyroid is due to this autoimmune condition. And that might sound scary, but I've seen a lot of cases clear up with the right diet.
Right.
So you do the right diet, and I can prescribe some thyroid hormone, because if you're low thyroid, it really feels good to have a little bit of extra thyroid, and it makes a huge difference. I had one woman who was actually a national speaker, mm-hmm. and she said, it's all I can do to get up in front of my audience. And I gave her a very low dose of thyroid because I tested her and she was low. And she said, I can't believe it. It's like someone turned the lights on. And now I can give my talks and I feel enthused and I'm happy and I'm energetic and I can stay up and I can do my talks at night. I don't have to take a nap in the afternoon. So this woman was just like overjoyed. And I continued to treat her and she continued to be happy and healthy and got rid of her hypothyroidism. And in her case, as in many, many cases, she also had thyroiditis, Hashimoto's thyroiditis. And again, it's an inflammation of the thyroid. It's when your own thyroid, your own body is reacting to your thyroid. You're making immune antibodies. And often the culprit is gluten.
Gluten?
Yeah, the body confuses, there's a cross-reactivity. So to make it just really simple, without giving a whole course on the immune system, when I see thyroid antibodies, I ask people to go off gluten. And very often that is what does it. I mean, I had one lady for years who wouldn't go off gluten, and she was very depressed. And I was treating her thyroiditis. I was treating it with with fish oil, with thyroid, but she would not go off gluten. Finally, she was desperate. I mean, she was practically not functional. She couldn't get up. She couldn't get out of bed. So went off gluten, and now it's about 8 years later. She's doing great. She has not turned back. She said, in fact, I ran into her not long ago, and she said she'd had some gluten in some food, which she'd been traveling, and there was gluten. And she said she had such a reaction because when you're off of a food for a while, you really notice it when you get back on it.
Right. For those of you just tuning in today to Here's to Your Health, we're speaking with Dr. Hyla Cass, MD. Her new book, 8 Weeks to Vibrant Health. Dr. Cass is a practicing psychiatrist. What foods contain gluten?
Well, we all know that bread does. Oats may, barley. There's a whole list, actually. You can go to glutenfree.com or gluten.com. There are many, many, many websites that list them because it's not simply the foods that have gluten already in them, but that have been processed. If you're very gluten sensitive, if you have, for example, celiac disease, then you have to be extremely careful not to have food that's been processed along with gluten, because the protein, the gliadin that's in gluten is very sensitizing and can cause a real problem.
When in your career as a healer, as a psychiatrist, did you suddenly think, oh my goodness, food's important? Did you know that as a teenage girl and you always brought that with you? Or did suddenly at graduate school level you suddenly realized, oh my God, I went to a lecture and I think that makes perfect sense? What was the moment, can I ask?
That's a good question. I think it was my powers of observation. As a psychiatric resident, we were learning psychotherapy. And I just was noticing people's food habits. And it wasn't even popular then to talk about food and blood sugar. And
we're talking in the 70s now?
Yeah.
It really wasn't popular.
No.
Right. No.
People didn't really think about it. And I began to notice that when people ate in a certain way, they felt differently. And when they ate whole foods and omitted the bad stuff, the sugar, caffeine, alcohol, their mental health was better. And I began to ask people to humor me and just make these dietary changes. And enough of them changed that it was like, hey, I think we're onto something here. And then adding in the nutrients. And I began to follow people like Dr. Abram Hoffer, who was one of my mentors.
Hoffer, yeah.
Yeah. And there were just Carl Pfeiffer. There were some wonderful doctors out there who were pioneers.
Actually, and Abraham Hoffer introduced the use of niacin in 1951. Is that his?
Yes.
I mean, important and landmark discovery.
It was a landmark discovery. Niacin, he didn't discover niacin, but he discovered the use of niacin, both for schizophrenia and for lowering cholesterol. And it's still used to this day for lowering cholesterol. Although what you find is that people are more on the statin drugs because you can't patent niacin.
Right, unfortunately, yes. Right. So. A strong statement. Thank you. Gently delivered, but a strong statement. So when people have trouble with their thyroid, are there broad categories of people who tend to have problems with thyroid? For example, does the cigarette smoker have more problems with thyroid? Does the heavy consumer of processed sugar have problems with thyroid? Does the person exposed to a lot of x-rays or radiation, like people in the airline profession, people who had a lot of dental x-rays or other x-rays, are those the three main areas where people have problems with thyroid?
You could say that. I mean, I will look for it anyway, but it's a sign of some sort of toxicity. Usually it is an autoimmune thyroiditis, and autoimmune means your body's reacting against itself, and that's usually because you're not handling all the toxic stuff in your environment. So when people detox, and I don't mean detox by having like a master cleanse or something, that's not detox. It's actually giving the nutrients to your liver to help the phase 1 and phase 2 detoxification, the alpha lipoic acid, NAC. And I've actually developed some products that have that in them so that people can detox while they're actually feeding their brain. So that's kind of a really good thing. Like in a way, it's kind of like sneaking in all of the nutrition at once, because people tend to get, I don't know if they get tired or lazy or what, but when they have to take a lot of supplements, they will often, I don't know exactly why, but they'll come to me and say, oh, well, I'm only down to taking 1 or 2. I take this one and this one. I said, well, what about taking this one and this one? Well, I didn't think they were important. So what I did was I put them in packets. So I have my Brain Recovery AM and PM packets. And then you can't really split them up. You take your AM packet and you take your PM packet, and there you have your multivitamin, your fish oil, your amino acids, and your alpha lipoic acid, NAC, silymarin for the liver to do this detox that I'm talking about. Because when you're toxic, you're going to have antibodies that are working against your body. And not only against your thyroid, but against other things too. So the really important takeaway here is eat cleanly, eat organically, and I may be preaching to the choir here.
No, a lot of people like to hear it. They like to hear from someone authoritative. And why is organic better?
Organic is better because you're not giving yourself the body load of the pesticides and the herbicides and all the crap that's in processed foods. And processed foods is also really, it's really bad.
Right.
And the GMO food. So if something is organic, if food is organic, it's non-GMO.
Right.
And GMO is really bad. We were not meant to metabolize glyphosate or any of the bad things that are in.
You mean Roundup?
Yeah.
Roundup's not good for us. Isn't that a surprise?
Well, the Roundup is supposed to destroy the gut of the bugs.
Right.
So what does it do? We eat it, and it destroys our gut.
Right.
And we're seeing a lot of gut issues. We're seeing leaky gut, and that may be why we're having so much more gluten sensitivity. And we also have higher gluten wheat than we've had in the past because it's been hybridized. Not so much GMO. The wheat isn't so much a GMO as hybridized and grown to be very high in gluten.
And there has been a lot of discussion recently about gluten intolerance, and there has been some people, the thinking is that indeed the problem is the GMO grains, which do have the Roundup, which does destroy the gut of insects and possibly of us as well. Do you think that is a potentially good theory?
Yeah, well, what happens, so again, it's not the gluten that has the Roundup in it. It's the other grains and the other foods that have it, the other genetically modified foods. In your breakfast cereal, it's like wherever you go, there you are, you have GMO foods, and that's tearing up your gut, so you develop leaky gut. When you have leaky gut, these molecules of food, dairy, wheat, grains, whatever it is, whatever you're eating, is actually eggs going in through the gut, through a bigger gap. There's a larger gap between the cells, goes into the system, into the bloodstream, and your body says, "What is this?
Right.
This is I don't know what this is," because it's not broken down into the little molecules. So you have these sort of, it's not exactly chunks of food,
right,
but larger pieces of food that hasn't been fully broken down, and so then your immune system mounts a response against it, and so you have an autoimmune response because you have a response against, say, dairy, egg, gluten, whatever that is, and then you have cross reactivity within your body, so you start to actually react to your body parts, like the thyroid.
Well, seems very clear when you mention it. What should I be eating for breakfast? What should my listeners be eating for breakfast? Give me a breakfast, lunch, and dinner, because it should be protein. So what should I be eating? What should I kind of not eat?
What's interesting is that we've had this idea about a breakfast being milk and cereal, which is kind of silly. Look at the Japanese breakfast. They eat fish and rice.
Fish and rice sounds good.
Yeah. So I mean,
people laugh when I say that. Eat a little fish or something for breakfast. Let me say fish for breakfast. Americans laugh.
Eat dinner for breakfast. I mean, that's really what we should be doing.
Right.
If you're not vegan, then have some meat protein. Chicken, fish, turkey, eggs. If you eat eggs.
Do you think eggs are a good choice for most people most of the time? Yeah.
Yeah, eggs
organic,
are healthy.
Organic eggs.
Yeah, absolutely organic. And if you have your own chickens, it's even better.
Having your own chickens is fun. Yeah,
that's good
for sure.
You have really fresh eggs. That's one of my goals is to have my own chickens. So
yeah, chickens actually are fun, aren't they? They really are.
They're very affectionate and sweet.
Actually, yes, and they're intelligent chickens. Yes, I know that about chickens. I actually like chickens.
Do you know any?
We have some chickens actually coming on. Actually, next guest after you, the Joke Organic Egg Farm will be on. They brought their chickens here before once, and their chickens were a big hit. So I like eggs. So you like to recommend protein food with each meal in modest quantities, and roughly how much protein do I need over the course of the day? Roughly, how much?
Well, probably 20 grams in a meal. But, measure it in your hand.
Right.
A handful of protein. You're not going to be measuring grams.
Right.
Do you measure grams?
I do not.
You do not. I do not. You ask me what does a gram look like? I don't know. But you do have like a handful. Something that'll fit in the palm of your hand.
Well, Dr. Hyla Kayasth, it's been a fantastic interview. I appreciate you being a guest today on Here's to Your Health. It's been great.
Yeah, I'd like to invite people to come to my website, cassmd.com, and they can get a free download of my ebook, Reclaim Your Brain. And they can also get I have a special offer for your people, which is a discount on my 8 Weeks to Vibrant Health coaching package, $200 discount when they put in LA Talk Live as the code.
That sounds very good.
So there's a deal.
It's very good.
Can you put that on your website?
Absolutely, sure.
Okay.
Absolutely, sure. Dr. Kess, thank you very much.
A pleasure.
Thank you.
Where did the time go?
It was good. You've been listening to Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live broadcast network. I'm your host, Josh Lane, and we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back after these important messages.
We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
It started out like a totally normal day.
I love you.
I mean, I guess I was a little sweaty and I was definitely sore. I thought I had gas. Turns out I was having a heart attack. Heart disease is the #1 killer of American women. So now I take care of myself and tell the other women in my life to do the same. Make it your mission to save your life and the lives of the women you love. Find out more from the American Heart Association at goredforwomen.org.
Hello world, I love you and I love me. Real talk straight from the heart brain. It's Madam Mibrations here, founder of Mibrations, sharing the Love Your Skin body butter. Mibrations creates with the highest vibrational energy on this planet Earth, which is love. So please support yourself, the world, and lupus community by purchasing any Mibrations healthy and living products. I also make vegan therapeutic living candles. You can find my products in the Bee Lounge located at 4873 Topanga Canyon Boulevard, Woodland Hills, California 91364, and at the Ink Rich Tattoo and Piercing located at 7211 Van Nuys Boulevard, Van Nuys, California 91405. Thank you for the highest good of all. I love you and I love me.
Young Connection, your one-stop connection for all your graphic design and commercial printing needs. Young Connection is a full-service printing and media design company dedicated to providing the highest level of customer service and satisfaction. Young Connection provides swift response and rapid turnaround services for banners, brochures, business cards, letterheads, church bulletins, funeral programs, flyers, logo design, posters, and much, much more, all at an affordable price. Young Connection, the official printing company of LA Talk Live. Give them a call at 310-491-3336. That's 310-491-3336, or visit their website at www.youngconnection.com. That's www.youngconnection.com. Young Connection Printing and Media Services, proud sponsors of LA Talk Live, where it's more than just talk.
Hey everybody, it's your man Sabir Bey, back on your airwaves, inviting you to join us every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on the Sabir Bey Show, discussing history, law, and hip-hop. Every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, the Sabir Bey Show, exclusively on latalklive.com. You also can catch us on iTunes Radio and R&B, Live 365, Radio Flag, and now Stitcher Radio. Or watch us and listen directly at latalklive.com. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Dr. Levi, your fitness doctor, making a personal house call, inviting you to join me Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific for my all-new show, The Dr. Levi Show. Join us as we discuss fitness, health, and well-being, including emotional and spiritual health. So don't forget to tune in to the Dr. Levi Show every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific, exclusively on latalklive.com and the Talk Live Broadcast Network. You can also catch us on iTunes, Radio R&B, or watch us on Ustream.tv, or catch us on the Live 365 network, and now on Radio Flag and Stitcher Radio. reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Elena, inviting you to join me every Wednesday at noon for Elena's Beauty Talk and more, exclusively on LA Talk Live. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio, R&B, or watch us on Ustream.tv. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Indian Tyler inviting you to join me beginning April 9th every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for Indian Tyler's Beyond the Vanity. Join me as we go beyond the vanity and discuss the real-life issues of beauty. And it gets really real. So on April 9th, don't forget to tune in to Indian Tyler's Beyond the Vanity Wednesdays at 2 p.m. exclusively on latalklive.com and the Talk Live Broadcast Network. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B, TuneIn Radio, Live 365, Radio Flag, and AHA Radio. Or watch and listen directly at latalklive.com. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening and viewing pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
We're back. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live broadcast network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. My guest is Kaliko from Joka Farms Organic Eggs. They've been on before. Kaliko was a big hit, and so was her, as I said before, well-behaved chickens. We have some well-behaved little chickens, little tiny chickens. What do you call these little chicklings? Or what?
Well, you have one standard size chicken there that is an Americana. They're the breed that lay the green and the blue eggs.
Uh-huh.
And all the rest of them are Banty chickens. They're about half the size of your regular standard chicken. So they're really babies, and they're maybe a week old.
Oh, we call it.
Yeah.
And so, what's the technical term for those little tiny babies? Just
Bantams.
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 At that size.
Yeah.
And you were a guest before, and we had a lot of fun.
I did.
And also, you have an important product. You are an egg farmer, is that right?
Egg farmer, wannabe marketer, out there marketing our eggs and getting them into the stores, and being really concerned about not just our relationship with the grocers, but also the customer, making sure that the customers like our product.
And you have decided that you're going to produce eggs and sell eggs, but in a different way, a way that you feel is better for the chickens and better for the consumers because the eggs taste better and have more food value. What do you do when you grow am I pronouncing it Joka Farms?
Jokika.
Jokika. Is that Hawaiian?
No, it's actually, those are my partners over there. I have two brother cowboys who are partners. Uh-huh. And what we did was we took the first two letters of our name. So Johnny is the J-O, and then Keith, his brother, is K-E, and Kaliko's K-A, and we came up with Jokika.
Okay, Jokika.
Yeah.
And so what is the process that you are doing that you feel is progressive and intelligent as far as egg production?
We're winging it. Let's start there. I'm a city girl, very little experience with farming. The boys are cattle ranchers. And we had the opportunity to take in about 300 hens. And I had actually seen, I believe it was Food Inc. I was talking to one of your guys out there a moment ago about it. And it had such a profound effect on me just as a consumer and a non-farmer, seeing the way that things were being treated, that animals were being treated, right, just so that we could throw a steak on the barbecue. Right. And we really wanted, or at least I really felt, and the boys came alongside me, that we challenged ourselves. Could you actually take a bunch of hens with no experience, us not having the experience, and make a business that was profitable, that gave us a living, and do it in a way that was going to not cause harm to the hens. That was, where they would be healthy and happy and they could live their lives on a pasture. They would supply us with a food product. They supply us with the eggs. And at the end of their lives, we're still we haven't thankfully gotten to that point yet, so we're still not really sure how we're going to handle that. But whatever it is that we decide to do, you can trust that we will do it in a very humane manner, and it will be something that will benefit the rest of the population, so that their lives are not going to be just, we're not just going to cut them up and throw them out for the coyotes. Their lives will have meaning. And, people think chickens are stupid. And
chickens actually are pretty smart, aren't they?
I think they're incredibly smart. So every animal on this planet deserves respect. And that's the way we feel, and that's what we try to do. We try to treat our hens with respect. We try to make sure that they're fed. We give them non-GMO feed and wonderful pastures. Just really taking care of them. And it only makes sense. If you treat, it's not just the food that you're eating, it's the food that they're eating, right? So if you are giving them the best that you can and the best quality of life, and you don't have all the stress hormones going through them that might be there if they're in a confined area, how can they not give you a very top quality product?
Well, I eat your eggs, and that's one reason why you're on the show, because I know firsthand how good tasting these eggs are,
Yay.
How lovely the shell is to crack, how good the color is of the yolk, and I like those eggs, and I like food. I'm a careful eater. I think your eggs are superior. I think your eggs taste better. They're more fun to eat. I'm assuming that they have more food value. So what is the process that you do? I'm looking at your chickens. There's little tiny lovely chickens, which were here before, and they were a big hit. So, and let me say this about intelligence in chickens. So they're certainly probably more intelligent than parakeets.
I've never had a parakeet. I wouldn't know.
And they're pretty sharp. I've had parakeets.
Okay.
They're pretty sharp. And, birds in general, parrots considered very, very smart. But these chickens are smart, and you take care of them. And by feeding them carefully, it makes the food value richer in the egg, right? So it's very self-serving that for me as a consumer, I want you to feed them carefully because I get a better quality egg with more food value. Right?
Correct. Right. And our little sign back here shows you, okay, you have your pastured eggs, which are chickens who get to run around on grass, and they
let's talk about that now. The whole idea of, first of all, tell my listening audience, what is the policy on raising your eggs? What is the feed? Let's start with the feed right away. What do you feed them, your chickens, and what do you not feed them? Tell me.
Our feed is a combination of, I wish I could tell you, it's a combination of all kinds of really yummy grains and minerals and vitamins. Mm-hmm. It's all non-genetically modified organisms.
Right, that's very important for you. So there's
very,
no
very
GMOs
important.
used, right? Okay.
No GMOs. And we differ a little bit from a lot of the organic companies that are out there, because not only are we no genetically modified organisms, but we also do not have corn or soy in our feed.
Because corn and soy are so unfortunately genetically modified.
Well, and a lot of people are allergic to it. And so, some people who are going organic or have been organic find that they still can't eat the organic eggs because they either have soy or corn.
Because, you're saying that if you should be sensitive to corn or soy, a person is, mm-hmm. Let's say they feel they are, if they eat eggs and the chickens have been fed corn or soy, then the person could react to the eggs, you're saying.
I am not allergic to corn and soy. Right. I have customers who are,
mm-hmm.
who have not been able to eat eggs and have called and left messages and sent us emails that say, oh my gosh, thank you so much for your product. For the first time in 20 years, I've been able to eat an egg. So I'm not a scientist. I can't tell you mm-hmm. how that works. I just know that from what customers are saying that it's working for them. And so, if we can give them a product and it's better for our chickens, then why not? Yeah.
No, it's a very interesting concept, and actually, I think it's accurate. So there's no corn and no soy in your eggs,
mm-hmm.
and so you feed them what? Grasses and grains? Is that what they eat?
They run around in fields, so there's pastured grass.
Excuse me. So
it's all Mother Nature.
In other words, your chickens don't spend their entire life in a large chicken house.
No,
they are outside pecking. Is that it?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So they are. We have structures. We have little homes for them. I think there's 5 or 6 of them on the property, and 2 mobile trailers. So that's where they sleep at night. That's where
they sleep in the mobile trailers.
They sleep in these mobile trailers or these little structures, only to make sure that they stay safe from nighttime predators and not for any other reason.
Right.
So when it's nighttime, they put themselves away. They they just know it's time for bed. They'll walk themselves up to these little structures. They put themselves in them.
So at what time at night do the chickens?
When the sun starts to go down.
So tonight, say what time will they march in?
I'm going to say, maybe around 7ish. They'll just start to wander back over to their homes.
So did you have to teach them to do that? No, really, you didn't? They just all decided, okay, it's 7 o'clock, we're going in that big structure?
They look for shelter. So their roosting posts are there. They have nesting box in there. That's where they go. And so they all march into their own little homes. And then it's the boys' property where our farm is. And so the boys will go down and they'll shut the doors. They'll make sure they have food and water, shut the doors up for the night. And then I would say about 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, they go down and they open the doors, and the hens get to run around all day long. They just stay out there until it's time to go home again. And we free feed them. So in addition to access to all the pasture, there's also big barrels of feed that's out there for them, and automatic waterers, so they always have water, and there's lots of shelter where they can either protect themselves from things like red-tailed hawks, and lots
hawks
of shade
come down
area.
and pick them up?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So you have trees on the pasture? What do you have to protect them against that?
Trees.
Yeah.
Trees. They can also, the shelter's left open, so they can go back into the shelters. With the trailers, they will run underneath because the trailers are elevated from the ground, so they'll run underneath and they'll stay down there. I'm not really sure why it is, but where we're located, we don't have a lot of predators. So we've never had a coyote come down or a mountain lion or anything like that. The only thing that I've ever seen is just in one instance a hawk came down, and of course they're all protected. So we really try to discourage that and not have a chicken smorgasbord out there for them.
Yeah, that wouldn't be any fun. And where is your farm?
It's up in Bradley, California, which is about half an hour north of Paso Robles, or I would say about 45 to 50 minutes north of San Luis Obispo, right off the 101.
I see. And how many acres do you have for the chickens?
There's Keith owns about 40 acres. We have the birds, I would say on about 4 acres, where they can just kind of run around and do what they want to do.
And how many chickens do you have right now?
We have, I think we have about 1,700 chickens.
So you have a good amount of chickens. And you were on before, so
yes.
We chat about the idea of moving chickens from one field to another. Mm-hmm. Do you do that?
We were doing it with our mobile trailers, and so we have separate pastures. Mm-hmm. So in one large pastures, we still have the mobile trailers, and those get moved every now and then. It just depends on whether or not the chickens have decimated the ground, and then you want to move them where they have more grass and more bugs, and so those do get moved. The structures that we have right now, what we decided to do was put them out in the center of a pasture, and we have it gated. So if you can imagine a square, and you quadrant off that square with fencing, but in the center of it you put just this little home, this little safety house. Right. And then what you can do is you can open up doors on the house, and one day they'll go into the first quadrant, and you let them hang out there for a couple days and they get to eat. Then maybe 3 days later you close that off and you open up another door so they get another area of the grass. So in this way it kind of achieves what you're getting by having the mobile trailers. Mm-hmm. It's just you're just opening different doors and allowing them access to different pasture.
And what's the thinking there scientifically? Why are you doing that?
Because you want to give the earth time to recover. You don't want to have all their poop in one area where the nitrogen's just going to, kill everything that's there. It can be a problem. You don't want to burn everything. And it achieves the same thing really that you get by the trailers, because you're moving the trailers to give them access to other grass. Mm. This, we're just opening doors to give them access to other grass.
And so then while they're out, they're eating grass, they're eating bugs, and then by moving them every couple of days, you don't wear out the land.
You don't wear out the land. You allow the bugs to come back. You're just giving that piece of land time to replenish itself, and it ends up giving them more nutritional value. It's the Joel Salatin method. I mean, Joel Salatin, I don't know that he invented it, but he's kind of the granddaddy of this rotational pasture, where you're moving things forward. We talked about it last time.
We did.
He's got the pigs.
He's very important. That fellow.
Hugely important. But he has, I think he has pigs. pigs, and then they're followed by cattle, and the cattle, poop in the fields, and then you have the chickens come in, and the chickens scratch the poop into the grass, and they eat the grass down even further, and then you have your layers come out. It's this whole thing about using a smaller footprint of land in order to take care of animals,
Right.
but also because he fences off these areas, so he'll fence off the area where the pigs are and then another fencing area for the cattle. What he does is he plants a forage mix that has all this wonderful nutritional value in it. Well, it's just like a little baby. If you try to give a baby something sweet, they're going to gobble it up. If you try to give a baby spinach and creamed carrots, they're probably still going to keep going for the sweet stuff. But if you put these animals in this area and all you're giving them is that forage space plus whatever grains you're feeding them, they're going to get hungry enough that they're going to eat the stuff that doesn't taste so good but is nutritionally better for them.
I see.
And so that's kind of the mentality of this rotational pasturing that goes on.
Yeah, it seems very smart. What is it? Is it more labor intensive?
It is.
More labor intensive.
But anything good and anything worth doing is not going to be easy. It's going to be a little bit more difficult.
And I'm not asking you to be a clairvoyant here, but do you think that in the future, in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, that the method that you are pioneering right now, that you find to be so successful and your customers like the egg so much, do you think we'll see more and more of this as people realize this is just smart animal husbandry?
I think people know it's smart animal husbandry. What is going to happen, and I am not an expert on this, so for all your listeners out there, don't call into the station and say I got it wrong, because I probably have some of this wrong. But there is a Prop 2 that was voted in by the state of California several years ago, and a lot of it comes into effect January of next year.
I did not know this.
So Prop 2, as I understand it, was it's an Animal Welfare Act, and I think it was spearheaded by the Humane Society.
Good for them.
And what it is that they have said to any egg producers in California, no more of these small cages. You cannot do this. Now we're going to have cages.
Really?
You need to retrofit your farms, you need to spend the money, and you need to fix your living quarters for your hens so that these poor birds can at least stand up, stretch their wings out, and turn around. Because right now they're shoulder to shoulder. It's crazy.
Right, it's really. If you ever see photos of it,
It's very sad.
it's kind of shocking actually. I think the average American has no idea this is going on, and the average American I think would look at this and think, no, this can't be good. I don't think people could think it's good. They think, no, seems these birds seem very stressed. It seems very bad.
But don't you think that's how we are though? Me not being a farmer, seeing
Richard's playing with the chickens. He likes chickens. Okay.
I'm watching this movie and thinking, I'm just gonna go down to the store. I'm gonna go get me a steak, and I'm gonna get me, a chicken breast, and I'm gonna have dinner. And then you're watching this movie, going, I'm so incredibly ignorant about this and where my food sourcing is coming from. But
I think that's the response. Most intelligent people, or most people would think, really, we had no idea. This doesn't seem good.
But you got to do something with that.
Now, actually, and the people who produce, I'll use the word. What is the word? Mass scale chickens, eggs.
Commercial,
I'm not sure.
commercial.
So, have those guys decided to say, okay, fine, we'll do it, or they said, no, we're not? Well,
that's the interesting part of it is that now the rumor is a lot of chicken companies in California are going to be going out of business because they do not have the funds available to retrofit their farms. It's very expensive. And then you have companies that are suing the state of California because not only can farmers in California, now they have to do these new cages, but people on the outside can't import their eggs to California unless they also are subscribing to the same law.
Good for the state of California.
Yeah, it's huge.
We have 11% of the population of the country. So and we have a pretty good record. It could be better environmentally, but it's pretty good. I think I always say that about California. It's good, could be maybe better, but good. I'm glad California's doing that. And that maybe will force people to make better food, produce better food, people eat better food, everyone will be healthier, work out for everyone. And to me, as a business person, it seems that if you already have an egg farm here in California, that the expensive part of the production is not retrofitting cages, although that might cost them some money, and I'm not trying to be cavalier. No, it would be the cost of your personnel, the taxes you're paying. It's not retrofitting cages. So,
but we're not really talking about the small backyard farmer or the small farmer like me. We're talking about the big corporations
with 50,000 birds,
millions and millions of birds. Right. I work with this guy, Scott Ramsdale, in Rosemary Farms, and smart man. I mean, he looked at what California was doing, and he has a place outside of California, and he started his retrofitting years ago. And he's out there in the marketplace right now. He's online, getting in there. He's going to be one of the lucky ones that's able to come into California and say, heard what you guys said, fixed everything, here are my eggs, I'm ready for you. And what I think some of the people in California don't understand is I am 100% behind this law. We do not raise our hens in cages because of that. I mean, we don't want caged birds. But you are going to see quite an increase in the price of eggs. I think the days of going into some of your supermarkets and seeing a dozen eggs for $1.50 are going to be gone. You're going to be looking at $4 because people are going to be trying to recoup what they're doing. So
okay, right now that's an issue, and I don't want to be cavalier there. That's an issue. That's certainly an issue. And when I buy your lovely eggs, obviously they're not $1.50, but I think to myself, these eggs taste like real food. I like these eggs. Mm-hmm. These eggs are fun to eat, and they taste great, and I know they're good for me. And so I'm willing to spend a little bit more on it. But again, I don't want to be cavalier and say, everyone should just spend the money on this. But it is a healthier product. It works out better for everyone. I guess there's some people who would push back and say, you have no right. Someone's paying $1.99 for eggs, and you want to bump it to $4, and that's a big increase. And they're correct. They're correct on that, for sure.
But what's going to happen, and back to your earlier question is, yes, you are going to see more people saying, we're not going to pay $4 for an egg. Right. We can go out and we can start our own backyard flock. And you're going.
Oh, right. Okay, great.
Excuse me. I think you're going to see zoning laws change a little bit, where they're going to allow more people in the city to become backyard farmers. I'm hoping they're going to relax a little bit on what you're allowed to and not allowed to do. And you will see people buying and setting up their own chicken coops because, you only need a couple chickens to give your family eggs for the next 2 years.
No, Kaliko, that's true, but I think that's very progressive because people, after they buy chickens, they suddenly realize, first of all, they're very cute when they're a week old, but when you got chickens, you got to keep an eye on them 7 days a week. And if you go out one evening and come home late from the theater, all of a sudden you realize the dogs in the neighborhood or the cats in the neighborhood or the foxes in the neighborhood ate your chickens. I've had friends who've lost chickens because one woman said to me, oh yeah, we came home late one night and the coyotes ate our chickens. She was very distraught because she had some very lovely chickens and she liked the chickens. It was fun having chickens. And of course, you get attached to them because they are intelligent and they're your chickens. And so you come home one night and the chickens have all been killed. It's very upsetting. It was upsetting.
It is, but chickens are like kids. You got to pay attention to them and you have to take care of them. They're like your cat or your dog. I mean, you wouldn't leave your dog running around in the backyard if you were going to be gone all night. You'd take care of them.
You're right. People need to think that way. So you're really saying that January 1 of 2015, this new law will go into effect?
Yeah, Prop 2. Just Google it and you'll find out all kinds of information on it.
So there will really be some big changes coming right up.
Yes, I think so. And you are looking for... you are looking for people like Rosemary Farms that are going to be able, that are conscientious about the laws, that are not trying to fight California about it, and that they're coming alongside California, and that they're going to have eggs for us. But there's going to be a shortage of eggs, and you're going to see the eggs that are available are really going to be quite pricey. And so I encourage everybody to go out, get a chicken coop, call me, I will help you. Get some baby chicks, and because it's going to be 7 or 8 months before they start laying an egg. So, yeah.
Well, Kaliko, this has been great fun. I appreciate you being on.
Thank you.
Where can we buy your eggs?
Well, let me tell you, one of the things that Joe Kika Farms does is we go to our grocers and we'll do these little shows. So you can come and visit us, play with our chicks, learn about our farm and what we do and why we do it. Air One Natural Foods is opening a brand new store over in Calabasas. Right. I think it's August 23rd. Love them. I'm going to be there. April 23rd. I think their grand opening is at 9 o'clock, and we are going to be there supporting them. We'll be there with our chicks. We're going to be there the following Saturday. And then we are also at Pacific Coast Greens in Malibu this Saturday, just trying to get people to first shop at great stores, but also encouraging them to learn about where their food comes from. And, some people have never held baby chicks, so come down and visit us.
That's fun. Well, Kaliko, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're listening to Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live Broadcast Network. I'm your host, Josh Lane. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back after these important messages.
Thank you for tuning in to LA Talk Live, reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we're more than just talk. Stay tuned.
It started out like a totally normal day.
I love you.
I mean, I guess I was a little sweaty and I was definitely sore. I thought I had gas. Turns out I was having a heart attack. Heart disease is the #1 killer of American women. So now I take care of myself and tell the other women in my life to do the same. Make it your mission to save your life and the lives of the women you love. Find out more from the American Heart Association at goredforwomen.org.
Hello world, I love you and I love me. Real talk straight from the heart brain. It's Madam Mibrations here, founder of Mibrations, sharing the Love Your Skin body butter. Mibrations creates with the highest vibrational energy on this planet Earth, which is love. So please support yourself, the world, and lupus community by purchasing any Mibrations healthy and living products. I also make vegan therapeutic living candles. You can find my products in the Bee Lounge located at 4873 Topanga Canyon Boulevard, Woodland Hills, California 91364, and at the Ink Rich Tattoo and Piercing located at 7211 Van Nuys Boulevard, Van Nuys, California 91405. Thank you for the highest good of all. I love you and I love me.
Young Connection, your one-stop connection for all your graphic design and commercial printing needs. Young Connection is a full-service printing and media design company dedicated to providing the highest level of customer service and satisfaction. Young Connection provides swift response and rapid turnaround services for banners, brochures, business cards, letterheads, church bulletins, funeral programs, flyers, logo design, posters, and much, much more, all at an affordable price. Young Connection, the official printing company of LA Talk Live. Give them a call at 310-491-3336. That's 310-491-3336, or visit their website at www.youngconnection.com. That's www.youngconnection.com. Young Connection Printing and Media Services, proud sponsors of LA Talk Live, where it's more than just talk.
Hi, this is Susie Pruden. And yes, you've seen me on Oprah, Good Morning America, and The Today Show. And I'm inviting you to join me every Monday from 3 to 4 for my new show, Mastermind Live. Join us as we introduce you to the new thought leaders of the world who will inspire you, support you, and guide you to your next level. So don't forget to tune into Mastermind Live exclusively on latalklive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B or watch us on Ustream TV. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hey, this is James Kenny, inviting you to join me every Thursday at noon for The Business of Business. Join us as we discuss success and how to reach it. Listen, don't forget to join me every Thursday at noon Pacific Standard Time for The Business of Business, exclusively here on LA Talk Live. Hey, and don't forget, you can also catch me on iTunes Radio R&B, Radio Flag, TuneIn Radio, Live 365, AHA Radio, TiVo Radio, and Apple TV Radio, or just watch and listen directly at latalklive.com, where we are more than just talk. Murked it.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
We're back. Thank you for tuning in to to this edition of Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live Broadcast Network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. My next guest, Carly Panchura, had as a younger woman a problem with arthritis. And it's a problem that affects many people. And Carly has experimented and has information to offer and works with the Arthritis Foundation. Carly, welcome to Here's to Your Health.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
And which organization do you work with again?
The Arthritis Foundation.
Of the United States.
Right.
And it's a national organization.
It's a national organization. I'm affiliated with the Los Angeles office.
Now, one of your friends suggested that you be a guest on the show. And so what happened that made you interested in this subject?
Well, I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis when I was 14 years old, and I've been what's called an advocacy ambassador for the foundation over the last about 12 months or so, working as a liaison between the Arthritis Foundation office here in LA and just communicating messages to our congressional representatives in DC and also in Sacramento.
And when you were 14, what happened? You suddenly had pain in your arms or wrists, or what was the story?
Exactly. I was playing soccer at the time, and I was really active in terms of sports. I was on the swim team, and I got to a point where we would have to do throw-ins, or our coach would make us do push-ups, and I was having a whole lot of pain in my shoulder. So my parents took me to the doctor, and after a series of tests, no one thinks that a kid could get arthritis. After a series of tests, they thought, well, it's tendinitis, or maybe it's overuse syndrome. She's playing too much soccer. And then we realized after some blood tests that it was rheumatoid arthritis, and so I was diagnosed at that time.
Now, I'm just asking this, as an athlete, a 14-year-old athlete, you were probably physically very active. I would assume that as an athlete, you were eating pretty carefully. In retrospect, was that an issue?
I think in retrospect, I wish I had known what I know today about some diets that I think are very beneficial for arthritis. I was always a healthy eater. I ate a lot of vegetables, ate a pretty well-balanced diet. But just within the last 5 or 10 years and the work they're doing with gluten-free and gluten sensitivities, that's one thing that I wish I had known more about, because it is super impactful on my joints. Within an hour of eating a plate of pasta, you see an immediate impact on inflammation.
So you're saying that on a personal level, you were diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis when you were 14, and now as a young woman, you find if occasionally you eat something with gluten in it, you don't feel good.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes your symptoms worse. Okay. So then tell my audience then, what's a gluten-free diet?
Well, gluten is in essence wheat. So any avoidance of wheat can be found in things like bread and pasta, can be found in beer. And so just avoiding that diet and replacing it with things like buckwheat are okay. Some oats are gluten-free. And then just including a lot more other carbohydrates like beans and rice. And just staying away from the gluten if you can.
Staying away from any of the grains that have gluten, because in your opinion, and certainly in your particular case,
right,
you think when you eat them, you don't feel good.
Right. Yeah.
And what about the use of processed sugar vis-a-vis arthritis? What's your thinking on that?
Yeah, I've experimented a lot with both sugar and caffeine. So those are two other major triggers, I think, for arthritis. My type of arthritis is specifically rheumatoid. And basically what happens is that I kind of call it cell confusion, mass confusion, where your body's immune system is actually attacking its own cell in mistakenly, instead of attacking like a foreign body or looking at a virus or what it should be attacking. So I find that, with my disease, with rheumatoid arthritis in particular, so I'm not sure how it works with osteoarthritis, that definitely staying away from sugar, caffeine, gluten. There's been a little bit of peer-reviewed research on following a vegan diet or vegetarian diet. I've tried that on occasion, but for me, the biggest impactor is the gluten.
And when you say sugar being a problem, are you referring to eating an apple or a banana, or are you talking about soda?
Talking mostly about soda.
Okay, so tell my listening audience, what's the difference in your mind?
Well, I'm not exactly sure. So if I eat an apple, I know I feel fine. If I eat a glass of soda, I know I feel horrible.
Right.
So getting down to the biochemical level, I couldn't tell you the difference. But just me from my personal experience and that of a lot of my friends who are also young adults with rheumatoid arthritis, we all seem to be following the same sorts of diet. In fact, if you look at the Arthritis Today website or the Arthritis Foundation website, and just scan, you do a quick search on nutrition, the words that pop up are for sure at the top of the list gluten. Then there's things like cherries and strawberries and things with antioxidant benefits that really
cherries and strawberries being good.
Being good, right. Things like green tea and olive oil. And I think, all of those things are comprised of a non-inflammatory diet.
Non-inflammatory diet. Now, if you were 65 years old when you were diagnosed with arthritis, is it a different name? It's not rheumatoid. Is it something different?
Typically, so arthritis affects about 53 million people in the United States.
That's a lot of people.
It's a lot of people. And of those are 1 in 250 children. So the most common form of arthritis is actually osteoarthritis. And surprisingly enough, about half of people with osteoarthritis are under the age of 65. However, osteoarthritis is what can form just over the years from normal joint wear and tear. So, you'll think of the 90-year-old grandmother who had to have a knee replacement or a hip replacement. She probably has osteoarthritis, which is just the damage of the lining of the joint or the cartilage. And it's usually kind of becomes a bone-on-bone situation where they have to actually replace the joint itself. So the osteoarthritis is also really common in, surprisingly, people who are in the military. So not just old people, but like I said, it's this wear and tear. So people...
Really? Osteoarthritis for young men and women in the military?
Right. It's the number one form of medical, or the number one reason for medical discharge from the military is actually osteoarthritis.
And you're thinking, since this is your subject, it's mostly from trauma from them getting knocked down all the time doing stuff? I mean, it's not a joke, training to be in the military and, fighting a defensive action or fighting a war is like, a lot of bad stuff happens.
I think it's just repetitive movements over time, again and again. I think it's also the heavier load, like backpacks, that people in the military carry over time. And so, I think it's just an accelerated form that, the average civilian is probably not going to put their body through that stress in such a short amount of time.
Mm-hmm. I did not know that about the military. Mm-hmm. And so in total, the amount of arthritis, osteo and rheumatoid is how much? 51 million?
53 million.
53 million in the United States.
Right.
And are there 310 million of us right now, roughly?
Probably. I'm not positive.
So we're talking a big chunk of the population has this problem. This is not a small problem. This is very big.
Yeah, it's of, I think, adults under 65, there are 22% of the population have arthritis. They think by the year 2030, about a quarter of the population will have arthritis.
Now, the ideas you mentioned to me quite clearly that gluten is a factor for you and the use of processed sugar is a factor for you. You feel bad. Personally, you're allowed to say that. That's, not prescribing for anyone.
Right.
It's not against the law. Does the Arthritis Foundation have an official stance on that? Is there an official lifestyle stance?
I'm not sure if it would be considered official. I know, for example, when I go into the doctor, he's not going to say you have to follow this disease. He provides, anecdotal evidence from the rest of his patients and can say, gluten will probably be something you want to stay away from.
Well, anecdotal information seems very fair. Yeah. It seems very fair. So you're saying now that physicians are telling their patients, listen, gluten is an issue, sugar, or are they not?
It depends on the doctor, I think. I grew up on the East Coast and never heard really any recommendation to follow a gluten-free diet until I moved to California. Although, I think the general population is moving away from gluten, and so it just may be the amount of time, that it needed to run the gamut through research.
There has been more discussion in the past 5 years than there was a while ago. Absolutely. May I ask, how old are you now? Can I ask?
36.
Okay, so still terribly young. And so for 20 years now, you've been kind of suffering roughly, and you've seen a big shift. and you go out and you lecture to people. You lecture, is that it?
I am considered an advocacy ambassador. So I was just in D.C. a couple weeks ago with a number of other advocates from around the country. There's actually 13,000 advocates for the Arthritis Foundation.
Wow.
And we spend 3 days. The first day is learning how to advocate. So for the beginners, they do like a Congress 101 session. For me this year as an intermediate advocate, since I went to the Congress last year, they did a simulation where you sit in a group and we had 4 people on our team and you had to assume the persona of one of our legislators. So we were Lydia Salinas from Miami. She was a Cuban-born woman, the youngest, of course, completely made up. The youngest member of Congress, and we learned that she had certain things of interest. She was interested in civil rights. She was interested in women's issues. She was interested a little in healthcare. And then the leaders of the organization kind of just threw questions at us. And every 4 minutes, we got another paper of some decision that we had to make. So whether it was, picking committee members or deciding how much of our time to spend fundraising. And so it really gives you an idea of what other priorities your congressional representatives have, and gives you a sense for how you need to really position your asks. So you need to have the hook, line, and sinker. It's tell your personal story. They always love to hear that. So the second day of the Congress, second day of the convention, we were at the Senate. The third day we were at the House, and everyone kind of goes around the table and tells their stories. We often have children who tell their story if they're willing to do it. And so it's really about, the hook, line, and sinker, giving them statistics and doing it in a very concise manner so that they understand your position among all of these priorities, other priorities that they have to consider.
And since arthritis is really so prevalent, and since, in my opinion, and from your direct personal experience, it is a lifestyle issue for some people, not everyone, possibly. So you avoid processed sugar, you avoid foods containing gluten, which is, you mentioned wheat, but also some people could be rye, could be some oats. Right. Corn, not the same as wheat, barley. Corn is not the same protein, but still problematic. Wheat, rye, oats, corn, and barley tend to be problematic for many people, but not all people. Now, I remember in the 70s, when people with rheumatoid arthritis were given gold injections, which is something they stopped doing because it was completely ineffective, just completely without merit, just scientifically nowhere, but they made a lot of money in that for a while. And so since money is an issue, are you noticing problems with organizations that talk about arthritis because they just really they don't want you to talk about not drinking the term soda pop, that if you say don't drink soda pop, they say to you, listen, soft sell that. We don't want you to not talk about that. Is that an issue?
I'm not sure. I actually
I put you on the spot there.
I actually took gold injections. So it wasn't even just in the 70s. I was taking gold injections in the late 90s and the early 2000s. God. So
that didn't work for you, did it?
Right. I
thought they had stopped that a long time ago.
In the past, they've looked at things like corticosteroids. In fact, the artist Renoir took corticosteroids. He has a painting that actually says the word cortisone in the bottom below this beautiful bouquet of flowers. And today we have a classification of drug, which I think is probably the most, the best breakthrough we've had in a while, which are biologics, and that's a disease or a drug class that you get via infusion or by an injection, and they're made from a live cell. That's why it's called a biologic instead of a synthetic material, So it's definitely the first thing that pops to people's mind when they try to give you suggestions on how to manage your arthritis. It's look at these great drugs that we have. That's the first thing your doctor says when he walks in the door. You probably walk out the door with a prescription right away. I think the recommendation to follow a good diet, certainly to sleep enough, which is very impactful to my arthritis in particular, and to just get the right balance of exercise. Can't be too much, it can't be too little. I think those are sometimes placed on the back burner. And so I think that is part of the fight that we have with the Arthritis Foundation is to encourage really like movement as the best medicine and following a good diet. So in fact, we are having the Arthritis Walk in Los Angeles on May 31st. And so that encourages people to get out there and walk so they can move their joints.
What is that again?
When is it?
Yeah.
May 31st, Saturday, May 31st.
Where
it's
is it
at
gonna be held?
Exposition Park down by the Coliseum near USC.
So you're looking for a big turnout for that?
I hope so, yeah. In the past few years, we've had it at the Santa Monica Pier, and I think we've had upwards of 2,000 people show up. So now we're kind of giving some love to the other side of town and the east side of town, so we're hoping to get a few more this year.
Were your mom and dad athletes?
My dad, yes. He was a baseball player
And
football player.
did you in college?
Yeah.
Okay. And so now that you're a young woman and your parents are obviously older, do your parents also follow a gluten-free diet and not drink any kind of soda pop? I like that old-fashioned term soda pop because it's so archaic, but it's a broad term. Do they do that as well?
When I'm home, they do. I think on a normal basis, they probably do not. Neither of them have rheumatoid or osteoarthritis, so it's not as much of a concern for them. But for sure, when I'm home, my mom cooks a lot of quinoa, and we stay away from bread. So it's really kind of changed over the last few years for me.
Your parents are in their 60s now, I'm asking?
Yeah.
So, and since your parents are athletes, what about their diet consciousness? Do you feel that your parents have a sense of it, or well, I guess they must have a sense of it because if you came home to visit and they thought it was totally without merit, they would not give you better food. They would say, "Nope, my daughter is just a wacko, and we're not going to give her that quinoa business."
Right. They absolutely have a sense of it. You know, I come from an Eastern European background, so a very large part of our diet is potatoes and halushki and pierogi and a lot of things with a lot of flour, wheat flour. And so we've kind of had to change our thought process when it comes to meal planning. I've certainly done that myself. I never have a loaf of bread ever in my kitchen. When I go home, you know, I can cheat a little bit and it doesn't impact me. But like I said earlier, a plate of pasta and immediately my wrists are swollen and painful for hours.
Which is kind of impressive, isn't it? Because now it seems so clear. You think, I do this and this happens.
Yep.
Every time I do this happens. It is kind of impressive.
Yeah.
And to some extent, it takes the worry out of you because you think to yourself, I just went out and ate pasta and now my arms hurt. But at least you don't think, oh my God, I'm having a stroke. You think, I'm not going to joke. You realize, okay, I want to eat that pasta and now I'm going to be sick for 2 days.
Yeah. Well, you know, growing up, I was on a humongous regimen of drugs. And I decided, I guess it was about 6 years ago, I'm going to try to stop taking one. So I stopped taking Plaquenil. That was the first thing. It can actually impact your eyesight, and that scared me. So I thought, okay, let's see what happens when I drop it. Nothing happened.
Okay.
Then I went to Naprosyn. I dropped Naprosyn. Nothing happened. So I think a lot of times, you know, you just need to listen to your own body. Right. And you need to listen to your doctor too, because they're probably going to be ahead of the research. But I think the most important thing is figuring out, you know, what does your body tell you? If within an hour of eating a beer or drinking a beer, you know, you're not feeling very well, then you're not going to do it. You're not going to accept that beer the next time.
Yeah, good for you. Good for you. I didn't want to put you on the spot there too much, but you know, this is a wellness show, and we're progressive. And so I mean, the people who listen to the show recognize, most of them, that indeed food is one of the components of your good health, and that it's important to choose wisely, good tasting food, but choose wisely. And soda pop is a bad choice. Unfortunately, it's bad for the teeth, it's bad for the bones, it's bad for the heart, it's bad for the memory. You know, it's just bad for diabetics. So, most people kind of know that, but I like to remind them. It's my job.
Well, you're absolutely not putting me on the spot. I wish, you know, someone on the radio had been saying this kind of thing when I was 14, and you know, I probably would have changed my diet then.
Well, as an athlete, the athletes really have an interest in wellness, and many athletes today, it's not like it was, say, 20, 30 years ago. I was listening to National Public Broadcasting, and they were saying that when the LA Lakers are on tour, you know, when they're doing away games, Whole Foods caters everything they eat. And I thought, well, that seems very smart and very basic. But a lot of coaches didn't know that 10, 15 years ago. The coaches were very slow to catch on to food as a healing tool.
Yeah.
That's my take on it.
Yeah. I think it's changing.
And are there any things as far as supplements that you have found actually are good for the arthritic patient?
I myself have not experimented with supplements. However, there was an article recently in the Arthritis Today magazine of a triathlete, and actually met her a few weeks ago. She lives in San Diego, and she's experimented with a number of things. She takes folic acid on a daily basis, and she feels like that kind of keeps her mind clear. She takes a few other things that that I'm not sure of. I couldn't recall the names right now, but I think it's probably something to look at next. I think you can only do so much at one time, and so I think following and making sure that a specific diet works for me, and then I think moving on to the next step is I probably would see a nutritionist and look at some of these vitamins that she's taking, since she's been able to stay off all medications and continue to be a triathlete.
Right, and that obviously puts a lot of stress on the body.
Yeah.
One thing that I have found is terribly successful and is very basic is fish oils. With EPA, DHA. Not only are they great for the skin, keep the skin nice and moist and healthy, they're great for your ability to focus, they're good for your mood, and they're great for these kind of inflammatory problems we call arthritis. And fish oils, at this point in the United States, they're not even controversial. It's like no one is unhappy with you if you talk about using fish oils.
Right.
And fish oils really do work great for these inflammatory properties. And something as simple as vitamin C is a great anti-inflammatory. It's not a drug anti-inflammatory, just that vitamin C is just it's an anti-inflammatory. You're not allowed to say that on the label because the FDA does not allow you to make claims. And I'm not making a claim right now. I'm just talking about first-person experience and literature. So vitamin C, which is also not super controversial, and fish oils, I think really can help the arthritic patient. And then the big part is avoidance. Avoidance of substances you're sensitive and or allergic to. And everything is simple after you know it.
Yeah.
But before you know it, when I was a teenage boy, I had terrible skin, which is very embarrassing when you're a teenager. And then I bumped into someone who said, "Oh, no, it's what you're eating." And I said, "Really? I had no idea. I just never dawned on me that food was an issue." And as soon as I found out about it, I modified my diet. My skin was a lot better. I thought, well, that was actually pretty simple.
Yeah.
But someone had to tell me first.
Yeah, I've done the same experimentation with some of my friends. We've seen a Korean doctor in Koreatown. And I've gone in with, a friend who had an inflammatory condition. It wasn't arthritis. And we walked out and we both said, okay, well, I think we have to follow the same exact diet. It works
Right.
for a whole lot of conditions. And I think it's just generally healthy overall for most people.
I know it actually turns
Not
out to be
all.
very simple and actually very cost effective.
Yeah.
But like any other technology, food is a healing tool. It's a technology. You have to learn the technology. I mean, you have to bump into the idea. And then there's a certain time involved. You say, okay, here's the idea. I'll do it. But if you, for example, drinking soda and stop drinking soda for one day, your arthritis won't go away. Not in a day.
Right.
But in 30 days at your age, you might think, gee, I feel remarkably better. So there's a time frame. You have to find the information and then do it for X amount of time. Because food is not the same as a drug therapy. Drug therapy might kick in 20 minutes. That's remarkable. We need that occasionally. But the nutrient therapy, no different time frame. Need to know that. And then you do it for 30 days and you realize, well, that obviously worked for me. I'm committed now to the subject because I see from direct personal experience that worked.
Right. Yeah. And, I've followed a gluten-free diet. So I could look over a period of 6 months or so. And you don't feel like your disease has been cured for sure by any means. I mean, I've had it since I was 14. I have a lot of joint damage already. And I'm not going to cure it by missing gluten in my meal for one day. But I know if I eat that one meal of gluten and my wrist becomes super inflamed afterwards, and if I do that again next week and the week after and the week after, that each time that inflammation is in my wrist, it's probably damaging the joint just a little bit more. And so I think it's really just the culmination or the accumulation over time that's important.
Yeah, I think that's a very workable perspective. What do you do for athletics now?
I like to go to the gym and go to spinning class. It's probably my best form of exercise. I can't run anymore except for maybe a block or two.
It hurts?
It would hurt me the next day. It doesn't hurt as I'm doing it, but it hurts the next day. I have had a total knee replacement, so my knee has a whole ton of titanium in it. And
when did that happen?
That was about 3 years ago that I got the joint replacement. So things like that. I don't want to push it.
Right.
You know, a new knee lasts, based on data from 15 years ago, about 15 to 20 years. And, you know, over time, it depends just how much you use it, that components of it may need to be replaced. So possibly not the titanium, but it could be the titanium could move within your joint space. The plastic in the middle could wear down, and you could have that. So I haven't ever been a huge runner, and so I'd rather just, you know, stick to the biking. I know it's safe for your knees, and so that's typically what I do.
And running, even though it's a lovely sport, there's a lot of injury in running anyway.
Yeah.
And people, I think it's maybe good if you're a teenager. Other than that, it's not. So, Carly, it's been great fun having you on the show. Give us the name of the organization again, how we contact them.
It's the Arthritis Foundation, and I'll give you the website for our upcoming walk. It's www.laarthritiswalk. That's LA, as in Los Angeles, arthritiswalk.org. And if you have questions, the phone number for the foundation is 323-954-5760, and specifically for the walk, you can dial extension 250.
Let me have the phone number once again.
That's 323-954-5760 and extension 250.
Carly, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. You've been listening to Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live broadcast network. I'm your host, Josh Lane. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back after these important messages.
We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Starlet Quarles, and I'm inviting you to join us every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. for a new show right here on LA Talk Live, The Dialogue, Real Talk, Real People. Join us as we discuss the topics that are relevant to today's generational leaders. So don't forget to tune in to The Dialogue, Real Talk, Real People, every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. right here on latalklive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B, Live 365, Radio Flag, and now Stitcher Radio. Or watch and listen directly at latalklive.com. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hello world, how you living? This is D. Brex, your host of the all-new rap project here on LA Talk Live. That's latalklive.com. Or you can find me on iTunes Radio in the R&B section. That's the Rap Project, every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's Wednesdays at 7 p.m. West Coast time, so don't be late. On the Rap Project, I will be playing the very best of rap and hip-hop that goes beyond the ordinary. So connect with me, your host, D. Brax, the rap connoisseur, on the Rap Project every Wednesday at 7, right here on latalklive.com, where we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Tim Alexander. I'm the filmmaker that gave you Diary of a Retired Black Man. I want you to come and join me every Thursday at 5 p.m. for my brand new show, What Would My Daddy Say? Yep, I have a show where I'm going to stand in as your father because so many people grow up without a father, and they need that fatherly advice because mothers say things a little bit different. This is a call-in show, so I'm going to help you with all those messy situations. That's every Thursday at 5 p.m. What Would My Daddy Say? Exclusively on latalklive.com. Real Freedom Radio, where we can say what we like. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B, Radio Flag, TuneIn Radio, Live 365, AHA Radio, TiVo Radio, and Apple TV Radio. Or just watch and listen directly at latalklive.com. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening and viewing pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk. And Daddy's home.
Hi, this is Dr. Lewis Logan, inviting you to join me every Friday from 11 a.m. to 12 noon for Faith on the Front Line. We don't just talk about it, we are about it. That's our motto. Don't just talk about it, be about it. We highlight the issues and challenges that we face today and how faith communities and leaders make a difference. So don't forget to tune in to Faith on the Front Line, exclusively here on LA Talk Live. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio and R&B, and watch us on Ustream TV. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Dawn Christie inviting you to join me every Friday, 1 p.m. Pacific, for my all-new show, The Dawn Christie Show. Join me as I discuss love, spiritual readings, your purpose, why am I born, what am I here to do. So don't forget to tune in The Dawn Christie Show at 1 p.m. Pacific, exclusively on LA Talk Live. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B or watch us on Ustream TV, reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hey y'all, I'm Shaquem Williams, and I'm the host of The Shock Factor here on LA Talk Live. We broadcast to the world every Friday at 8 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Live music, live performances, we're just live. Chef Momo, Life MC, Diana, and once again, your host, Shaquem Williams. So come join us every Friday here at LA Talk Live, the world-leading broadcasting internet radio station. The Shock Factor. The Shock Factor. Come join us on The Shock Factor.
This is Brett Chapin.
And this is Dorothy Dillingham Blue, inviting you to join us every Saturday at noon Pacific Standard Time for our show, La La Land Talk.
Join us as we talk with some of the top talent in LA. Artists' untold stories, your phone calls, and live on-location broadcasts have made La La Land one of the best sources in LA for everything entertainment.
So don't forget to tune in to La La Land Talk.
Exclusively on latalklive.com.
You can also catch us on iTunes Radio, R&B, Live 365, Radio Flag, and now Stitcher Radio. Or watch and listen directly at latalklive.com.
Saturdays at noon Pacific Time. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/LaLaLandTalk, Twitter, twitter.com/LaLaLandTalk. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live.
And we are more than just talk.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
We're back. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live broadcast network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. My next guest is the author of this new book, The Secret Powers of Colorful Foods. Patricia Dennis is my guest. And Patricia, welcome to Here's to Your Health.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
And so colors in foods turned out to be important. We know that. And what is your thinking on this book?
The Secret Powers of Colorful Foods is about how the biochemicals in pigments affect our emotions. Most people know colorful foods are great for our body, but they don't know that you could use different colors to enhance different emotions.
I see. So if I eat a nice red delicious apple, is this good for me?
It's good for you physically, of course. The premise of the book, though, is based upon our inner energy centers, which are chakras.
Chakras.
Yes. And the inner energy centers or chakras date thousands of years back to the ancient Hindu philosophy, that we have internal energy centers that extend from the base of the spine through the top of the head. We have
Those are called chakras.
Those are called chakras. In Sanskrit, that means spinning wheels.
Oh.
Okay. And so the spinning wheels emit different colors based upon where they are in the body. Today, doctors are very interested in the biochemicals in pigment and color. And so our emotions also have color, the energy of our emotions. When you have a particular feeling or emotion, let's say you feel you can't forgive somebody.
Okay. This is a common emotion. Fine. Let's go with that. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. Forgiveness is the hardest thing. And so forgiveness, the color of that is green.
Forgiveness is green.
Okay. So let's say you go to the supermarket and instead of just seeing asparagus or broccoli or Brussels sprouts, you see an empowerment tool. You see green and say, you know something, I'm going to have that with my dinner so that I can enhance my positive energy to release any feelings of resentment I have.
Well, that sounds very good. Sounds very good, and certainly asparagus and green things are good for us. And what was the origin of this research?
The origin of the research was about feeding the chakra system. And what we did, my co-author is Charlotte Lyons, who's a culinary expert. She was the food editor of Ebony magazine for many years. Right. And we both were fascinated with the chakra system and feeding the chakras. And so in the past 3 years or so, we did major research into this. As a hypnotherapist, what I did was I combined what we call body syndromes with it. Based upon where your energy center is and the location of it, it can tell us what emotions are lacking. For example, you mentioned red, the apple. Red is the color of what we call our root or base energy center.
Well, I'm pretty base, but go ahead, yeah.
Okay. And so it has to do with the legs and the feet and the knees and moving forward in life. So if somebody were to say, you know, I just feel stuck, I can't get ahead, I can't move forward, we would say, you know something, you need more red. How about apples? How about beets?
Well, that's actually very interesting. All right, and so then let's do orange then.
Okay, I love orange. That is the next chakra.
Yes.
And what's so wonderful about the color orange, it has to do with creativity, sensuality, sexuality. In fact, it's located where the belly button is, and a navel orange has a little belly button in it.
It does actually, yes.
but here's what's so fascinating. Yes. The orange energy center has to do with our reproductive organs. As it turns out, yams have what we call phytoestrogens in them. Right. As it turns out, honey was used for years to make men more virile. So the colors have a basis, even biologically, in the history of its usage.
Well, that's actually very interesting. And, okay. So it's good for me emotionally, it's good for me physically. People kind of recognize it's good for vision, good for ringing in the ears. Is anything bad for me?
Bad for
Any colors that are bad for me to eat?
No, it's not that colors are bad for you. And in the book, we're just talking about your feelings. We're not talking about the physical aspect of it. Yes. Here's where it could be bad for you. The chakras are either spinning at a normal rate, or they're spinning at a rate that's too low, or they're spinning too fast. For example, red. If you have a hyper red chakra, you're going to be overly vigilant, you're going to be aggressive, and then you shouldn't be having more red. You see, it's not whether the color is bad, it's whether you're having too much of it. So if you are very aggressive and an angry person, most likely we would suggest that you go to a cooler color like purple, eggplant, grapes.
I see. But of course, if I was a football player or a boxer, should I eat more red stuff because I want to be more aggressive on the field?
I don't think that being too aggressive is a great thing.
It's good if you're a boxer.
It is, but we're talking about subtle energies.
I know. I'm giving you a hard time a little bit, but it is a very interesting topic, and I had never thought about these ideas, and they seem. I think my listeners will like them.
Well, that's great. Yeah. Our goal with this book is most people find selecting vegetables a chore and boring.
Really?
And so if you knew that it is the color of the vegetable or the fruit or the herbs that could help balance you emotionally, when you go to the supermarket and you see this sea of color, you no longer see an orange, but you see the color and you know, hey, that could loosen me up to go with the flow.
Right.
I think I'm going to add that to what I already have.
Right.
In the book, we talk about purees that you could make and freeze and use them in soups and gravies, pardon me, to enhance. They say you should have rainbow colors to keep you balanced.
Mm-hmm.
Stress throws our chakras off.
Yes.
And who doesn't have stress?
Right. Right. This is very true. So what about something like watermelon, which is green on the outside and red on the inside?
Watermelon is considered a red because the food, you don't eat the rind, you eat the food pretty much.
Actually, many years ago, I used to work for Ann Wigmore, who was the principal teacher of Wheatgrass in the United States. I was Ann's aide at Hippocrates in Boston, her center, from 73 to 75. And we used to juice the watermelon rind, because in those days they said it was from 2 to 4% protein, and it actually tasted very good. And you didn't do any wasting that way because you ate the entire, everything. So we all were very enamored of that at the time. So we did actually drink watermelon juice from the rind, and it actually just tasted just like watermelon.
Mm-hmm. In that case, if it's green, that would be for forgiveness. We go by color, strictly by the color of the fruits and the vegetables and how they sync up with the colors of the chakras and the emotions.
Well, since forgiveness seems like a big issue, you mentioned it for everyone, it seems like a big issue. So what else can we do for forgiveness? What kind of combos do you have?
In the book, it is also, aside from the foods, there are affirmations and meditations, and they all work together. I think what is pretty neat about this is that once a person is mindful of what their problems are, they become more present with themselves. And then once they take...
That's nice to think, yeah.
Yes.
That could happen,
okay. Yeah. And then once they realize, okay, I've got to work on this forgiveness issue. Yes, I will have more greens, but I will also do the meditations. I will also release the anger that I have. It all works together. Remember, energy is very subtle, and it works in subtle ways. So when you earlier mentioned about a football player or a boxer, it wouldn't work immediately like that. It's not like taking a protein drink or anything.
Right.
These are subtle increments of energy.
That's a very good answer. Yeah, and I was actually teasing you to some extent because it's my role here to do that. What else can I do? Tell me some of the other... Well, we have purple cabbage. Oh, what about something like garlic?
Oh, garlic is considered actually a part of the green family. And I wanted to mention one of the interesting things about this book is Once you learn in the first chapter this concept, and I have charts that you can pick an emotion that you feel you're grappling with. It tells you the color of that emotion, the color of the food to use, and then Charlotte wrote recipes by color. So you could flip to, let's say, green. And you can use, they're very, very, very simple recipes that you can use. One of my favorite areas is the throat energy center. It's called the aquamarine chakra. And sea vegetables are great for it, but any kind of liquid is great. Why I mention this is when we talk about feeding your feelings, so many of us can be stifled and stuff down our words and not speak our truth. And so this particular chapter that I wrote also talks about what words are you feeding yourself. For example, there are people who say, oh, I never could do this, or this always happens to me. There are 3 words that will break that energy up until now. So you learn that.
Up until now.
Yes. So there's also the word should. That how many times a day I should do this, I should do this, instead of saying I'd like to do this. So there are exercises in the book. There's also food fun trivia in the book about different foods. And the other aspect I wanted to mention, which goes to the yellow and the orange, and I know you know about this, is turmeric, which is considered a spice. And the biochemical aspect of the pigment is called curcumin. I don't know if you're aware, but Anderson Cancer Center is a big proponent of curcumin, and there is research that has been done about the pigment speaking to our DNA and to cancer cells.
Turmeric's fantastic, yeah.
And so we have a lovely little recipe for turmeric tea that you could have in the morning. And the last chapter of the book is to really have fun with it. We have a universal broth that's delicious of all the colors. We also have a card game for you to figure out what color you need. We also have purees that we call chakra shooters. That's fun.
Chakra shooters, okay.
Yes.
Good name.
Fun to play with.
Right.
And as I said before, we tell you how to make purees, freeze them in muffin cups, bag them, and then pull them out to use them in sauces and gravies or even as a tea.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, one of the foods we just briefly mentioned, garlic, which is kind of what, silvery white, and isn't garlic considered stimulating in the Ayurvedic system?
Okay. The book is not about the physical body. The book is about emotions. So we categorize that actually with scallions and onions. And so that, again, is for the emotions. We're talking emotions and feelings, not about Ayurvedic or anything of that nature. This book is giving people a tool for their emotional well-being.
So would you say that onions and garlic and scallions give you clarity? Is that what they would do, you're thinking?
Well, no, that would fall actually into the forgiveness category.
Oh.
Yeah. So there are different categories of emotions.
And you're familiar with the idea that garlic in Ayurvedic healing is considered stimulating?
Yes.
Yeah. And you kind of agree with that?
Well, yes, but that's stimulating the body.
Right. And what else? What other emotions? What about are there certain foods parent-child could have? Or tell me some of the other ideas how I could use the book.
Well,
use the thinking.
Sure, of course. The yellow energy center has to do with our ego, our intellect, our willpower. And so, for example, let's say you have a child who doesn't have confidence. Okay? So you could say, you know something? I'm going to tell you a secret, but don't tell anybody else, all right? This is just between us. If you really want to be more confident when you stand up at bat, you need yellow. So let's go to the store and let's pick out some yellow foods. And in that respect, it is our dream that eventually children will say, you know something, I need green today, to get people back into enjoying fruits and vegetables, not only for taste, but as an empowerment tool.
Well, that seems like a very nice empowerment tool for a child to, help them with that. And it's accurate, but it seems very nice. It actually reminds me of a story. Dale Alexander was known as the Codfather, and he was very influential in the 50s, 60s, 70s. Twin Labs hired him to promote cod liver oil when cod liver oil was out of fashion in the 70s and 80s. Now, of course, it's in fashion. Everyone loves cod liver oil. And Dale Alexander was very influential in that because as a young man, he once bumped into Yogi Berra when Yogi was playing for the Yankees, and Yogi was in a batting slump. And Dale convinced him to stop drinking soda. And of course, Yogi was the owner of Yoo-Hoo chocolate beverages. So whether Yogi stopped drinking soda or not, whatever, I don't know, but he got out of his batting slump, and Dale Alexander got credit for that, and that made his reputation as a nutritionist. And I once had the pleasure of hearing Dale Alexander lecture, and he was amazingly charming, and had a lot of funny lines, and one of his funny lines was, and how do I know this is true? I read it in my book. It was just delightful. He was just so delightful, really. So I see the power of saying to an athlete, listen, we'll eat these apples before the event, and you'll have a better day. You'll be better on the field. So, I get that, and I think it's just a lovely tool, actually. Mm-hmm. What other affirmations have you got for me?
Now, affirmations are statements
right,
where you affirm
right,
what you want to be. Mm-hmm. So, for example, let's say you feel stuck and you can't move ahead in your career or in your life,
sure,
and that we said was red. So an affirmation would be, I move ahead in life freely and feel my power fully. So that could be an affirmation. In the book, we suggest that before you prepare the meal or as you're preparing your meal, you use the affirmations because the energy of your thought and the affirmations goes into the food. Right. I want to tell you an interesting story. Mm-hmm. Charlotte Lyons, who, as I said, is a culinary guru and very well respected, had said to me, you can give two chefs the same exact recipe, the same exact ingredients, the same exact cooking utensils, have them in the same room, mm-hmm, and the recipe will come out different.
Right.
Why is that? Well, one of the reasons is the energy of each chef is different. If somebody is cooking and they're angry, that energy will come through the food. And that was one of the beginning thoughts for feeding the chakras and how we got into this.
That actually is very true. It's amazing. Yes, you can be the same chef, same everything, and then the food, that's completely true. Two musicians play the exact same notes, and the music sounds very different. Patricia, this was great fun. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Where can we get a copy of The Secret Powers of Colorful Foods?
Go to my website, which is foodsforfeelings.com. You could press the link to Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, or Balboa Press.
Well, Patricia, thank you very much. It's been very nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're listening to Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live broadcast network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back after these important messages.
We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
It started out like a totally normal day.
I love you.
I mean, I guess I was a little sweaty and I was definitely sore. I thought I had gas. Turns out I was having a heart attack. Heart disease is the #1 killer of American women. So now I take care of myself and tell the other women in my life to do the same. Make it your mission to save your life and the lives of the women you love. Find out more from the American Heart Association at goredforwomen.org.
Hey everybody, it's your man Sabir Bey back on your airwaves, inviting you to join us every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on the Sabir Bey Show, discussing history, law, and hip-hop. Every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, the Sabir Bey Show, exclusively on latalklive.com. You also can catch us on iTunes Radio and R&B, Live 365, Radio Flag, and now Stitcher Radio. Or watch us and listen directly at latalklive.com. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Dr. Levi, your fitness doctor, making a personal house call, inviting you to join me Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific for my all-new show, The Dr. Levi Show. Join us as we discuss fitness, health, and well-being, including emotional and spiritual health. So don't forget to tune in to the Dr. Levi Show every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific, exclusively on latalklive.com and the Talk Live Broadcast Network. You can also catch us on iTunes, Radio R&B, or watch us on Ustream.tv, or catch us on the Live 365 network, and now on Radio Flag and Stitcher Radio. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Elena, inviting you to join me every Wednesday at noon for Elena's Beauty Talk and more, exclusively on LA Talk Live. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio, R&B, or watch us on Ustream.tv. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Indian Tyler, inviting you to join me beginning April 9th every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for Indian Tyler's Beyond the Vanity. Join me as we go beyond the vanity and discuss the real-life issues of beauty. And it gets really real. So on April 9th, don't forget to tune in to Indian Tyler's Beyond the Vanity, Wednesdays at 2 p.m., exclusively on latalklive.com and the Talk Live Broadcast Network. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B, TuneIn Radio, Live 365, Radio Flag, and AHA Radio. Or watch and listen directly at latalklive.com. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening and viewing pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Starlet Quarles, and I'm inviting you to join us every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. for a new show right here on LA Talk Live, The Dialogue, Real Talk, Real People. Join us as we discuss the topics that are relevant to today's generational leaders. So don't forget to tune in to The Dialogue, Real Talk, Real People, every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. right here on latalklive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B, Live 365, Radio Flag, and now Stitcher Radio. Or watch and listen directly at latalklive.com. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
We're back. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live broadcast network. My guest is a specialist in using the essential oil, the medicinal plant frankincense, and also the medicinal plant myrrh. My guest is Michelle Hammerton, who has been working with frankincense and myrrh for quite a while now, and really has to be seen as one of the important innovators in bringing back this important medicinal herb. Michelle, welcome to Here's to Your Health.
Thank you so much, Josh. Thank you for having me today.
My pleasure. Michelle is calling in from her facility in Florida. And Michelle, so tell my listening audience, what is frankincense?
Well, frankincense is a plant resin that might be more commonly known as boswellia to a lot of people that frequent health food stores. It's been around for a couple of years on the market as an anti-inflammatory, usually sold in a resin form.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, it's a plant resin, and it's been around for thousands of years. I think the dates back into the Pharaoh's books, back into the Pharmacopoeia, back into maybe 1500 BC.
Mm-hmm.
So it was used for all kinds of medicinal purposes. It happens to smell really nice. So it was also used for perfume, and it has anti-aging benefits. So it was also used as a flesh preserver and embalming also.
Wow.
And also in skin treatments and beautification. Also, it happens to repel insects. So it was also used for pest control.
Well, that's
so it has lots of different applications.
It seems to have a lot of different applications. And when was it? Was it, 7 or 8 years ago that people started to just introduce it again into natural food stores? The natural food stores seem to be the traditional place for the non-traditional remedy. So is my time frame good on that? Was it the past 7 or 8 years?
I think, yes, I think that's about it. You probably know better than I do, but I believe it was about 7 or 8 years ago.
And how did you discover the use of frankincense?
Well, when my daughter was 5, so we're going back about 15 years now, she came down with some typical flu-like symptoms, swollen glands and a fever. And I had the oil in my garage for about a year and a half or so.
Mm-hmm.
I had stuck it in there that a friend gave it to me, and I just thought, well, it's probably going to go rancid, but I just was too busy in my life to be dealing with essential oils at that point. I was a very busy real estate broker at the time. So I just set it in there and kind of forgot about it until that day when my daughter got the fever. All of a sudden it came to mind, and something just said, go get the frankincense and rub it on her swollen glands. And so that's what I did. And I checked her about 10 minutes later, and she was asleep on my bed, and I noticed that the swelling had gone down, and she was a lot cooler, too, so the fever was less. So then I thought, wow, that really kind of works. So I'm going to go ahead and do what I usually do with this product instead of Vicks, and I was rubbing it on her chest and her back. And then her breathing just cleared right up. She was breathing so nice and clear, and within a day or two, she was back to her normal self.
Wow.
So that was my first experience with it. Now I have to tell you a little story that happened yesterday. Sunday. Sunday I had a nurse coming in for my mom, and she said, listen, I can't stay. I'm waiting for the other girl. I'm going to orient her, but my son's got the flu really bad. I got to go home and take care of him. So I, of course, gave her some frankincense and myrrh to take home. And she texted me yesterday, and she told me that he was 100% better.
Wow.
So it works great for cold and flu, and that's a given for sure.
So Michelle, how do I use it? Yeah. How do I use it? Let's say I have a cold. Do I rub it on my chest? I rub it on my forehead? What do I do with it?
If you have the oil, the thing to do would be to rub it onto just under your ears, around the gland area, onto your neck and your chest area, respiratory area, and to put some on the inside of the palm, the wrists, the pulse points, basically, so that you could then breathe it in, So you want to get it into your system and also on the outside.
Okay,
and that would be the way to use the oil.
That seems very simple. And should I put it on every couple of hours, once a day? What's the protocol?
Well, 2 or 3 times a day would probably be the right thing to do, but I would say to do it as you feel, because everybody is different. Some people might want to use it only one time. Other people might want to put it on every few hours. Some might want to just do it 2 or 3 times a day. So it's really up to the individual,
Now, you have a company called Ancient Essence, and you specialize in frankincense and myrrh. So where do you obtain your raw materials for your products?
My products come from Ethiopia and Somalia.
Mm-hmm.
And they're brought here in the resin form, and then they're processed into oils here in the United States.
So you buy it in a resin, because this way, is this the traditional way? It ships better this way? It just stays fresher?
What I understand is when it ships in the resin form, it doesn't have to be radiated. So I don't turn it into the oil here myself. I buy it as an oil.
I see.
But it's processed with the carbon distillation process. So that process versus like a steam distillation helps it to get through the big tank that it's processed into the oil form from the resin with pressure gas. From the CO2 distillation is using pressure, carbon dioxide pressure that pushes it through the tank. And in doing that way, they don't have to clean the tanks out because tanks are left clean from the pressure. So there's no use of turpentine, which is usually what the bigger companies will use when they're using a steam distillation method to clean the tank out. After different batches of essential oils are being made, they have to, obviously clean the tank out from one to the next. So they usually would use something like a turpentine to wipe out the inside of the container. But with this particular method, it gives you a better smelling oil because you don't have that piney residue. And it's a deeper, richer color. And from what my experience has been, it's just a higher concentrated product.
Well, that actually sounds very interesting. What's the method you use again?
It's carbon distillation or CO2 extraction.
And so you're saying that other manufacturers might use a turpentine to clean out the equipment, and that could be a problem with residue, because it certainly sounds like it could be a problem.
Yeah, that's usually the commercial way that it's done is through the steam distillation.
And when you buy it in the resin form, is there anything I can do with the resin too? I mean, can I? Because I can make incense out of that, can I? The resin?
Well, you could do a couple things with the resin at home if you have the resin. You can maybe put it in a pot of water and boil it, and you'll get the scent in the house. You can also drink that tea, which probably won't taste very good, especially the myrrh, because it's horribly bitter. I actually drank a bit of it myself a few weeks ago because my mom was having a problem with a salty taste in her mouth, So I said, well, let's drink some bitter myrrh and see if that clears it up. Sure enough, I'm not hearing her complain about the salty taste in the mouth anymore, so that fixed that. It doesn't taste good, though, I must say. We put a bunch of honey in it to try to mask it. But that's one way that you could use the resins. Another thing you could do with the resins is you could put them on a hot charcoal or maybe even just a hot old metal pan that you don't care about anymore because it's not coming off. Once you put it on there, it's going to ruin the pan, so you don't want to use good pots and pans for something like that. But that's another way. And then it's going to make a lot of smoke. It definitely will make a lot of smoke doing it that way. But it makes a beautiful scent in the room. It's a great aroma and very calming and soothing.
But you want the smoke, don't you? Michelle, don't you want the smoke?
One more way.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
You want the smoke, don't you?
Yeah, you do. You want to breathe that smoke in for sure. And another way of using the resins is just to set it in either a glass of water overnight. This is an old Persian remedy for child-bearing women. In the last trimester of their pregnancy, they would put these frankincense resins particularly in a glass of water, let it sit overnight, and then in the morning they would drink that, and it would be kind of milky and cloudy by the morning time because it it'll dissolve a lot faster than the myrrh will in water. And that was supposed to make the babies really brilliant. So they used that in the last trimester of their pregnancy. So that's another way you could take it internally, is with in the resin form, is to kind of like dilute it in water overnight.
Right.
And some people have just taken, which I've done, a couple times here and there whenever I felt I needed to, just take the resins and pop them like a pill, and swallow it down with some water. I've done that a couple times if I felt like, I was getting sick, or I just thought I needed to take it because, there's been a lot of research done. If you go to the PubMed.gov website and you just type in frankincense, you won't believe how much stuff pops up. So, from 2008 and onwards, there's all kinds of great research that's been done with frankincense and myrrh, and even in combination, the two of them together, to see if their effect as a combination was stronger than separately, and you'll find some studies that say, yes, it's stronger, and then other studies that say that it's not, depending on who did the research and, what the motives were and all that. But there is no doubt that there are doctors from all over the world that have great news to report on how it will help with tumor cells, and suppress tumor aggressiveness. Just all kinds of wonderful news about frankincense and myrrh for cancer. In fact, I recently heard that, there's probably about 17 different, chemicals and things that are in these plants, especially the frankincense, that they were trying to isolate and just get one, narrow it down to one thing that they could then mimic in the laboratory so that they could turn it into a pharmaceutical, and they just can't seem to find that one because it's a plant and it works synergistically. Mm-hmm. So that's why we don't see it on the market, mainstream.
Right. And you and I were chatting in preparation for the show today, and I did mention to you that I saw a very nice article from the BBC about frankincense and its potential cure for cancer. And, BBC Radio, obviously controlled by the British government, very careful what they write. And it was a very nice article. And if someone was a cancer patient, and so you mentioned we can take frankincense internally, and also let's say a person had skin cancer, they can put frankincense topically on the affected area. Is that the way you use frankincense?
Yes, it is. I've got a few of my clients who have called me and reported some great successes like that. One guy told me that he had skin cancer for the third time. It came back for the third time, and he was just afraid to go back again because they kept, raising the price every time. And so he just, kind of stumbled across my oil in some little shop on the beach. And the guy said, why don't you just try it? So he did. And he told me that in 3 days they fell off of his face. He had some skin tags on his face. And he said in 3 days it fell off. And I was like, wow, great. And so I did get a written testimonial from him, by the way, too. Because, lots of times people would call me and say, oh, my anxiety is gone. I don't need my Prozac anymore and this and that. And I wouldn't even take their information down. So when this guy called, I said, please, will you please send me something? And he did. So I've got his email, pretty much describing what I told you. He grew up on the beach and, he got it the first time because he was very fair-skinned and he'd always get bad sunburn as a child. And then as he got older, they started to develop into the skin cancer. So that was one. And then another girl more recently, I guess it was around Christmas time of 2013, she told me that she had some breast cancer and she just was not wanting to go and have it removed and go through all that. So she tried it. And to be quite honest with you, she didn't even pay for it. I sent it to her because she told me she was a single mother. I said, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and send it to you. So I did. And so she did really well with it. She, wrote me back. She texted me and told me that, it shrunk down. You can barely see anything there now. And she just felt so good about it, So, yeah. So there's a lot of good things that are going on with it, and people are getting some really good results. Also, a very important thing to think about, too, is the pest control issue. Because, if people would realize that this stuff chases away bugs, more people wouldn't be getting bit up by bugs in the first place. 1 million people a year die of malaria, and most of them are in Africa, and it's right where this stuff is growing. I just don't understand it.
You mean if they were, say, just using, if they were burning it as incense around their homes, they could minimize bugs?
That helps. Yes, that definitely helps, because even today the Indian women will hold their babies over the smoldering frankincense so that their bodies will be coated with it for insects, also for, it's antiviral, it's antibacterial. It's got all the great properties that would keep you healthy. So for many reasons, they do that. And yes, that smoke would definitely help, or the oil itself. And even if you've been bitten by something and you put it on the bite, it'll make the bite go away really quickly too. It just brings the swelling down of even wasp bites.
Wow. And let's talk about skin issues. Let's talk about making the skin lovelier. If I want to just make my skin on my face nicer, what do I do?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I would use a diluted amount of oil with water, and I sell it as an astringent, but anybody can make it at home. It's not a big deal. And you just put it on a cotton ball and you put it on your face.
Yes.
And that's about it. It's not a big deal. In fact, in the Old Testament of the Bible, in the book of Esther, I think it's like the 2nd chapter of Esther, they wrote about the king who had a harem, and he wouldn't look at any of the girls in the harem until they went through at least a 6-month regimen of myrrh on their face. So myrrh seems to be the one that would really soften up the skin. But so does the frankincense, because I use the frankincense on my skin, and it does really soften your skin a lot. And it also works very good for acne conditions and, any kind of blemishes and that kind of thing. So it doesn't have to be really strong, because the oil itself that I sell does not have a carrier oil, so it's very concentrated. So a little bit goes a long way, and you don't need to use a lot of it.
That's good. And Michelle, at this juncture, how do we get in contact with you and the Ancient Essence Frankincense and Myrrh Company?
Okay, well, the website is ancientessence.com, and the telephone numbers are 800-627-9813, and then my direct number is 407-948-9873.
Michelle, thank you very much. And I do have a final question. What about fingernails? Does frankincense or myrrh or both help with fingernail growth or beauty or whatever?
Well, I'll tell you what. I have had a couple of customers that have called and said that they've put this frankincense and myrrh mix onto fungal nails and that it cleared up the funguses. We also make another oil that's called a nail and cuticle oil. It's on our website. And that one has, besides frankincense and myrrh, it has neem, it has avocado, it has lemongrass oil, it has tea tree oil, and it has 8 different oils in it, argan oil and primrose oil. They're all very good for the skin and the nails. So that's probably a better one to go with if you have like a nail or fungal problem. But if you're just looking for something to really nourish your cuticles and your nails, then I would go with the nail oil for sure, the nail and cuticle oil.
Well, Michelle Hammerton, it's been a pleasure having you on Here's to Your Health today. I'd like to thank you for calling in, and I'd like to recommend your products because I know them, I work with them, and I use them, and I know they work very well. Michelle, thanks for being a guest.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Josh.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
My pleasure. You've been listening to this edition of Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live Broadcast Network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. Thank you for tuning in.
We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.